Chapter 1316. 1316 Wang Shengtian's despair. There were only 5 or 6 emperors in the southern nether region, and they were all ranked. The first emperor of the underworld was the strongest, followed by the second and third. He was ranked third among the emperors of the southern underworld and was extremely powerful. When the third underworld emperor made his move, the head of the Wang family was ecstatic. He secretly rejoiced, thinking that he was saved. The third emperor of the dead, this man is someone His Majesty Di wants to take down. Hurry up and kill him. His Majesty will definitely reward you heavily. The patriarch of the Wang clan shouted. You're so young, but you already have such combat strength. It's rare since ancient times. Unfortunately, you don't know how to keep a low profile and actually came here. I'll send you on your way, hee. The third underworld emperor laughed. His voice was dry and unpleasant, like a skeleton. He was covered in a large black robe and looked like a piece of black cloth floating in the air. Netherworld domain, transform into my netherworld chi. The third emperor of the dead grinned hideously. A black domain spread out and enveloped Lu Ming. The speed of the domain was extremely fast. The moment it appeared, it covered a radius of 100 miles. Lu Ming was also enveloped by it. Instantly, he felt countless black shadows pouncing on him. Endless netherworld chi drilled into Lu Ming's skin, trying to corrode him and turn him into netherworld chi. Buzz! At the same time, a black saber appeared in the third underworld emperor's hand and he slashed at Lu Ming. In his own territory, the third underworld emperor's speed was extremely fast. The moment he slashed out, he was in front of Lu Ming immediately. Wind Elemental Technique. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He cast the Wind Elemental Technique. His body moved without any wind. With a light sway, he dodged the third underworld emperor's attack. At the same time, he threw a punch. Clang! The fist force hit the saber's side, making a loud boom. The third underworld emperor's body trembled, and he couldn't help but take 2 steps back. As for Lu Ming, he also took a few steps back. Such a powerful force. The third Hell Emperor was shocked. Netherworld body. The third emperor of the dead's body trembled. His entire body collapsed and turned into a ball of netherworld chi. Together with his netherworld domain, it enveloped the entire world. Within a 100-mile radius, the netherworld domain covered the entire area with netherworld chi. A spirit body was formed from the bloodline and had some of the characteristics of the bloodline. Different spirit bodies had different mysteries and effects. Some spirit bodies lean towards attack, some lean towards defense, and some lean towards speed. For example, the spirit body of the third underworld emperor could turn into the chi of the netherworld and attack. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh! Lu Ming was enveloped in the netherworld chi. The sound of air being cut rang out in the surroundings. Countless saber lights were slashing toward Lu Ming from unknown directions. Fire Elemental Technique, Thunder Elemental Technique. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He transformed his chaos concept into the fire and thunder concepts. A long spear condensed from flames appeared in his right hand, and a long spear condensed from lightning appeared in his left hand. Buzz! The flaming long spear swept out in all directions with the power to sweep away thousands of troops. Fire and lightning were the nemesis of the netherworld chi. Moreover, the fire and lightning were condensed by the fire origin technique and the thunder origin technique. The power of the two intents was exerted to the extreme, and the power was even more shocking. The flaming spear swept across and the netherworld chi exploded. The saber gleams that were slashing at Lu Ming collapsed one by one. Even the netherworld domain shook violently as if it would explode at any moment. It's over there. Lu Ming's eyes were fixed on the front. The lightning spear in his left hand shot out like lightning. Ah! A blood-curdling scream came from that place. Then, the third Hell Emperor appeared and retreated rapidly. There was a hole in his shoulder, and lightning was flashing through it. Why would I? The masters of the Wang and Jiang families widened their eyes in disbelief. The third emperor of the dead was injured. One of the emperors was injured by Lu Ming. How was this possible? Lu Ming could even injure an emperor. Buzz! Lu Ming cast the wind element art. His body swayed as he approached the third emperor of the dead at high speed and threw a punch. This punch was a fusion of the Earth Origin Technique, Fire Origin Technique, and Thunder Origin Technique. The third emperor of the dead's domain shook violently. It only lasted for one breath before it exploded. The three martial techniques hit the third emperor of the dead, and he screamed as he was sent flying. Half of his body exploded, and his aura became weak. Run, run. There was only one thought in the head of the Wang family, and that was to escape. Lu Ming was too freakish. He was so young, but his combat strength was unimaginably strong. Even the third underworld emperor was no match for him. After exchanging a few blows, he was beaten half to death. If he did not escape, he would die. Wang Xingtian, I've said it. You will die today. Lu Ming's cold voice was heard. He activated the wind element technique and caught up with the master of the Wang family in a few flashes. No, spare me. As death descended upon him, the head of the Wang family broke down. He began to beg bitterly. Supreme martial artist? Face? He didn't want any of that. Compared to his life, these were nothing. Lu Ming looked at the master of the Wang family coldly. There was not a trace of pity in his eyes. Once upon a time, the master of the Wang family was an unparalleled existence in Lu Ming's eyes. He was a supreme being who could kill him with one finger. However, things had changed with the passage of time. Right now, the Wang clan's clan leader was nothing in front of him and could be easily killed by him. The world was unpredictable. Who could predict it? Lu Ming was growing and growing rapidly. Without realizing it, Lu Ming had become a peak figure in the divine wilderness continent. Those existences that he had to look up to in the past now looked up to him. Let's go. An indifferent voice came out of Lu Ming's mouth. His palm was like a knife, and he struck out. No, if I die, you'll die too. The Wang clan's clan leader roared in anger. He knew that he was going to die. Ruthlessness flashed in his eyes, and the aura on his body became violent. He was going to self-destruct. Shut up. Lu Ming shouted coldly. He exerted force in his palm, and a phantom of the prison-suppressing steel flashed, pressing down on the master of the Wang family. The patriarch of the Wang family didn't even have time to scream before he was crushed into pieces and died on the spot. He could not even self-destruct in front of Lu Ming. It's your turn. Lu Ming's gaze shifted to the master of the Jiang family and the master of the Luan family. Back then, during the Battle of Nine Dragons, the masters of the 6 great ancient families had all attacked Lu Ming. Among them, the masters of the Jiang family, the Luan family, and the Wang family had all wanted to kill Lu Ming. Lu Ming had always kept this grudge in his heart. Today, he would kill them all. Run, run. The masters of the Jiang family and the Luan family desperately flew up into the sky, because there was an emperor there. However, how fast was Lu Ming's speed? He took a step forward and appeared behind them. Circulating the prison's suppressing heavenly art, he struck out 2 palm strikes in a row. The 2 clan heads were dead. The third Hell Emperor. After killing the 2 clan heads, Lu Ming set his eyes on the third Underworld Emperor. Chapter 1317. 1317 Chapter 1317 Fighting 2 Empresses Alone. The third Emperor of the Dead's expression changed drastically, and he quickly retreated to the sky. Mountain Breaker Martial Emperor, attack together. The third Hell Emperor shouted. There was another emperor in the sky. He was an emperor of a dominant force in the central continent. He had joined DE and attacked the Tianxia Academy with the third emperor of the dead. On the surface, the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace had only sent the 2 of them this time. Kill! The Mountain Breaker Martial Emperor was a burly man who was more than 3 meters tall. He wielded a broadsword and slashed at Lu Ming. At the same time, the third Underworld Emperor launched an attack on Lu Ming while he was healing his body. The 2 sovereigns joined forces to attack Lu Ming. Boom! Boom! Lu Ming threw 2 consecutive punches. His fists were in a state of chaos. This was not the chaos concept, but Lu Ming's martial arts technique that combined 5 types of concepts. The first to bear the brunt were the 2 emperor's domains. The 2 domains covered Lu Ming's entire body and continuously depleted Lu Ming's attacks. Invisible attacks were constantly attacking Lu Ming. Lu Ming's fist force blasted out and the domain trembled continuously. Lu Ming charged into the domain and fought with the 2 emperors. The Mountain Breaker martial emperor had a burly figure and was known for his offensive and physical strength. However, after exchanging a single blow with Lu Ming, he was still forced to retreat. If it were not for the 3rd Hell Emperor's help, Lu Ming could have taken the opportunity to defeat the Mountain Breaker martial emperor. Even so, Lu Ming still had the upper hand at the beginning of the battle. Lu Ming. That's Lu Ming. A group of people stood in the White Jade Palace of the Tianxia Academy. Among them were figures that Lu Ming was familiar with, such as Kong Xen and Goddess Tan Xiang. The Valley of the Medicine Masters, without a sovereign, would find it difficult to protect them Slaviers in this chaotic world. However, the Valley of the Medicine Masters had a good relationship with the Tianxia Academy, so the Valley of the Medicine Masters had long sought refuge with the Tianxia Academy and moved to the Tianxia Academy. It was Kong Xen who had just spoken. His voice was full of disbelief as he stared into the distance. It's Lu Ming. He's not dead. This is amazing. Lu Ming is able to suppress 2 emperors. Fairy Tan Xiang's eyes also widened, and her voice was filled with shock. Originally, when the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace launched an attack on the Tianxia Academy, they had already defended for a few days. If this continued, it would be very early for them to be defeated. However, when they discovered that the army of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace was in chaos, they thought that it was the Heaven-Suppressing Divine Army or Ciel Luan of the Northern Plains who had sent reinforcements. In the end, they discovered that there was only one person, a young man. They found out in disbelief that the young man was Lu Ming, the Lu Ming who was said to have died in the Divine Ruins continent. The combat strength that Lu Ming had displayed shocked them even more. He's truly a peerless genius, one of a kind. A white-haired old man beside Kong Xen's side. This white-haired old man was one of the 2 emperors of Tianxia Academy. Dean, this is a rare opportunity. I think we should rush out and cooperate with Lu Ming to defeat the army of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. Fairy Tan Xiang suggested. Wait a moment. The Emperor of the Tianxia Academy muttered, the Ditian Divine Palace will not only send 2 emperors to attack our Tianxia Academy. Perhaps there are more emperors hiding in the dark. Now that Lu Ming has the upper hand, we are not in a hurry to attack. It will not be too late to attack after we have a clear view of the enemy. N. Kong Xen, Fairy Tan Xiang, and the others nodded. Indeed, now that Lu Ming had the upper hand, the ones who should be anxious should be the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace, not them. If the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace still had a sovereign hidden in the dark, they would not be able to hold it in for long and would attack. In the north, tens of thousands of miles away, Ciel Luan and the others were hiding in the void, looking into the distance. Even though Lu Ming had defeated Chu Luo before, they could not hide their shock when they saw Lu Ming's combat strength. Ancestor Devil, should we make our move now and annihilate this group of people from the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace in one fell swoop? Mo Yi asked. Wait a minute. There might be experts from the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace hiding in the dark. We'll act according to the situation. Xiaowan said. Boom, boom, boom. High up in the sky, 3 figures crisscrossed and engaged in an intense battle. Every time they crossed paths, there would be a muffled explosion between the sky and the earth. It was as if the sky and the earth had just been split open and the universe was rumbling. The terrifying fluctuations shook some people's eardrums, causing their bodies to tremble, and they spat out blood. The army of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace retreated again and again, distancing them Slaviers from the battlefield. Clang! Lu Ming combined 5 martial arts techniques of creation, and the power was shocking. He threw a punch and hit the saber of the Mountain Breaker Martial Emperor. The mountain breaker martial emperor's body trembled and he was sent flying. Then, Lu Ming turned his left hand and struck down with his palm. The chi of the netherworld rolled and the third emperor of the dead was sent flying. Kill! Lu Ming's body was as fast as lightning. In a flash, he rushed toward the third underworld emperor. Terrifying attacks poured down on the third underworld emperor. The third emperor of the dead tried his best, but it was difficult for him to resist. Wherever Lu Ming's fist passed, the netherworld chi was obliterated. The third emperor of the dead screamed in pain as his body almost exploded. On the other side, the mountain breaker martial emperor came to the rescue. Buzz! The lightning cauldron appeared above Lu Ming's head and smashed toward martial emperor mountain breaker. As Lu Ming's cultivation level increased, the lightning cauldron's power increased when he controlled it. The thunder cauldron collided with the battle saber of martial emperor Pashan heavily. Although the thunder cauldron was sent flying away, it had also blocked the attack of martial emperor Pashan. That was enough. Kill! Lu Ming charged at the third emperor of the dead and threw a punch. The chi of the netherworld exploded, and the third emperor of the dead was sent flying with a scream. Half of his body exploded, and his aura weakened. His injuries were even worse. And this was the third emperor of the dead. His netherworld body was mysterious and ever-changing. If it had been any other emperor, they would have been more seriously injured after being hit by Lu Ming's attack. Even so, the third underworld emperor was still terrified. He turned around and ran. He was afraid. If this went on, he would really be killed by Lu Ming. You can't escape. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with killing intent as he walked toward the third underworld emperor. At the same time, he focused his mind and spread his spiritual sense in all directions, as if he was waiting for something. In a few steps, Lu Ming was close to the third underworld emperor, and his terrifying attack was about to land on the third underworld emperor. Evil beast, you dare! At this moment, a cold voice came from the endless void. As soon as the voice was heard, a golden sword light descended from the sky and cut down on Lu Ming's head. It's dangerous. Facing this golden sword light, Lu Ming's hair stood on end. His heart trembled as he felt a fatal danger. Roar! Without any hesitation, the 9-dragon bloodline emerged. Lu Ming performed the bloodline fusion and transformed into 9 dragons. Boom! Boom! Each of the 9 dragon claws was a fusion of 5 martial techniques of creation, and they were all aimed at the golden sword light. An ear-piercing sound resounded between heaven and earth. The golden sword light was so sharp that it could cut through everything. The attack formed by the 5 martial techniques of creation was broken by the golden sword light one by one. The 9 dragons' body trembled, and they couldn't help but retreat 1,000 miles before they could stabilize themselves. The result was that 3 of the 9 dragon claws were cut off. Fortunately, this was the body of Blood Meridian. Lu Ming circulated the power of Blood Meridian and his 3 dragon claws were rapidly recovering. Chapter 1318. 1318 Di Hongqing. What a powerful force! What a terrifying sword chi! Lu Ming was secretly shocked. He transformed into 9 dragons and performed a martial technique that combined 5 types of concepts. Other than the chaos concept, this was Lu Ming's strongest combat power. However, he still could not withstand it. He was pushed back 1,000 miles by a sword gleam and 3 dragon claws were cut off. The power of the golden sword radiance was truly terrifying. Buzz! In the depths of the sky, a golden light flashed, and a figure appeared. It was an old man with thick bone armor and a burly figure. He wore a long golden robe that fluttered in the wind, and his body exuded endless majesty. The golden-robed old man released a terrifying aura, causing the sky to shake. Peak Lever 2 Martial Royal Realm. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat and his eyes were extremely solemn. The golden-robed old man's cultivation was at the same level as Xiel Wan and Di's martial emperor. He was extremely powerful. There was a huge gap between each level of the martial royal realm. The difference between the second level and the first level of the martial emperor realm was very obvious. It would not be too difficult for a second-level martial emperor to kill a first-level martial emperor. Not to mention the peak of the second-level martial monarch realm. Elder Di Hongqing, the third underworld emperor and the mountain breaker martial emperor were overjoyed to see the old man. Di. Lu Ming frowned. Xie Luan had mentioned before that Di suddenly had two peak level 2 martial royal realm experts with emperor spiritual weapons. Lu Ming had a lot of questions. It was not easy to find a peak level 2 martial royal realm expert. In the divine wilderness continent on the surface, there were only two people, Xie Luan and Di. Where did the two people at the peak of the second level of the martial royal realm beside Di come from? Moreover, they both had king's spiritual weapons. And now, he knew that one of them had the same surname as Di? What was going on? It was rumored that the Ditian Divine Palace was founded by Martial Emperor Dai. At that time, there was only one Martial Emperor Dai, and no one had heard that he had any clansmen with the same surname. Later on, did Martial Emperor Di have descendants, which led to the Di family? Could this old man be a descendant of Di? That was impossible. This was because Lu Ming felt that the old man was older than Di. Lu Ming had more questions in his heart. He felt that Di was more mysterious than he had imagined. Di Hongqing stood high up in the sky and looked down at Lu Ming. However, it was not difficult to see that there was a hint of surprise and disbelief in his eyes. He seemed to be in awe of Lu Ming's age and combat ability. So you're Lu Ming. Lu Ming, it's not bad for you to have such cultivation and combat strength at your age. I think you're a talent. Join our Di family. As long as you perform well, the Di family will not treat you badly. Di Hongqing said in a condescending tone. This wasn't Di Hongqing's intention. It seemed that he was born with the ability to look down on others. Hee. Lu Ming chuckled but did not answer. He stared at Di Hongqing and said after a while, "You're not from the divine wilderness continent, are you? Or are you not from the continent of the divine ruins?" Lu Ming had seen all the paragons in the divine ruins continent group, and there was no one with the surname Di. Di Hongqing was slightly stunned as if he did not expect Lu Ming to suddenly ask this question. Then he sneered, "You don't have to worry about this question. Now, just tell me, are you going to surrender or not?" Surrender? That's fine, but I have a condition. Give me Di's head and I'll surrender. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Impudent. Di Hongqing's face darkened, and his killing intent bloomed. He said in a cold voice, "Lu Ming, I see that you're quite talented. I wanted to give you a chance, but you didn't grasp it. I can only send you on your way." Di Hongqing clenched his fist in the air, and a golden combat sword condensed in the air. The sword chi soared up into the sky. Slash. Di Hongqing shouted. He swung his golden sword, and a terrifying sword chi, thousands of miles long, split the sky and went toward Lu Ming. It was even more powerful than the previous one. Chaos. The 9 dragons stomped in the air, and chaos chi filled the air around them. The chaos will was unleashed. In the face of an expert like Di Hongqing, Lu Ming no longer hid his strength and unleashed it with all his might. Prison suppressing heaven art. Lu Ming used the prison-suppressing heaven technique and a dragon claw swiped at the golden sword radiance. The dragon claw was covered in the chaos concept. Only when the chaos intent was combined with the prison-suppressing heavenly art could its power be unleashed to its maximum. Boom! The dragon claw collided with the golden sword radiance. It was as if the entire world was shaking, as if the end of the world had arrived. Half of the sky was filled with golden sword light, while the other half was in chaos. Di Hongqing and Lu Ming's figures were agitated by an invisible force and they retreated at the same time. How is that possible? The Mountain Breaker Martial Emperor and the Third Hell Emperor were dumbfounded by this scene. They could hardly believe their eyes. Lu Ming had actually blocked Di Hongqing's attack. Not only that, but they seemed to be on par with each other as they both retreated at the same time. This meant that Lu Ming could compete with Di Hongqing. Lu Ming had not used his full strength when he was fighting with them. At the thought of this, the two of them felt a chill down their spines. If Lu Ming had used his full strength earlier, they would have been dead for sure. Gulu. Gulu. In the White Jade Palace of the Tianxia Academy, Kong Xen, Goddess Tan Xiang, the two emperors of the Tianxia Academy, and other masters all swallowed with difficulty. Their throats moved, and their eyes were wide open as they stared into the distance. AI. The gap between us and Lu Ming is getting bigger and bigger. After a while, Kong Xen sighed, her voice full of helplessness. Lu Ming is not on the same level as us to begin with. He is destined to be more glorious and go further in the future. Fairy Tan Xiang's eyes were filled with excitement. Indeed, he is already standing at the peak of the divine wilderness continent at such a young age. I really do not know how high his future achievements will be. An emperor from the Tianxia Academy also sighed. In the northern sky, Xiel Wan and the others were also dumbfounded. This. Xiulua's body trembled, and he couldn't say a word. They had thought that Lu Ming's ability to defeat Xiulua and crush ordinary sovereigns was already earth-shattering enough. However, they now realized that they had underestimated Lu Ming. Lu Ming could actually fight with a peak level 2 martial royal realm expert. In other words, Lu Ming's combat strength was already on par with Xiel Wan. Lu Ming. Among the crowd, Yan Kuangtu was the most excited. He clenched his fists tightly and was extremely excited. I didn't misjudge you. Xiel Wan's eyes lit up. He knew that he had made the right bet. Emperor's sword, break the world. Di Hongqing's angry voice was heard. He was actually forced to retreat by Lu Ming. This shocked him, but at the same time, it aroused his killing intent. The golden sword radiance surged. Di Hong became one with the sword and turned into a dazzling sword radiance, slashing toward Lu Ming. Chapter 1319. 1319 Chapter 1319 Intense Battle. A furious blow from a peak level 2 martial royal realm expert would definitely be earth-shattering and astonishingly powerful. The third Hell Emperor, the mountain-breaking martial emperor, was terrified by this sword. They felt that they had no hope of being killed by this sword. Lu Ming. In the White Jade Palace, Kong Xian and the others, as well as Xiel Wan and the others in the north, were also on edge, especially Xiel Wan, who was ready to help at any time. The combat strength of a peak level 2 martial royal realm is indeed amazing. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. The 9 dragons twisted their bodies, opened their mouths, and roared. The devouring power burst forth, shrouding the front. At the same time, the dragon claws reached out, and the shadow of the prison's suppressing steel appeared. Boom! Once again, it clashed with the golden sword light, and a terrifying explosion rang out in the sky. The shadow of the prison suppressing steel was destroyed by the golden sword light, but the golden sword light also collapsed. Buzz! Buzz! The 9 dragons and Di Hongqing retreated at the same time. This time, Di Hongqing's retreat was shorter, while Lu Ming's retreat was longer. The 9 dragons' bodies trembled slightly, and they were covered with sword marks. The bodies of the 9 dragons glowed with light. Their bodies seemed to no longer be solid, and they seemed illusory. You haven't become an emperor, and you haven't cultivated a spiritual body. There's still a limit to just relying on the power of your bloodline. Let's see how you're going to fight me. Di Hongqing sneered, his eyes cold. After all, there was a limit to the power of bloodline fusion. The more intense the resistance, the more terrifying the power of bloodline would be consumed. Once the power of bloodline was used up, he could no longer maintain the state of bloodline fusion. He could only wait for his power of bloodline to recover before he could use bloodline fusion again. It was obvious that Lu Ming's power of the 9 dragons' bloodline was about to be exhausted, so the bodies of the 9 dragons were somewhat illusory. This move will kill you. Di Hongqing stepped forward, and the golden sword light was even more dazzling. Emperor's sword, breaking the world. Buzz! The golden sword gleam slashed at Lu Ming again, full of murderous intent. Di Hongqing was going to kill Lu Ming with this sword. The bloodline of the 9 dragons burst like a bubble. However, Lu Ming's actual body did not appear. Instead, a stone tablet appeared. It was the prison-suppressing steel. The prison-suppressing steel turned into the size of a mountain, emitting a brilliant light. Below him, the word on the steel shone with a resplendent light. Buzz! The prison-guarding steel was covered in a layer of chaos intent, which made it seem even heavier and more suppressive. The prison-suppressing steel pressed toward the golden sword light. The second divine level 9th rank bloodline. Di Hongqing's eyes narrowed. The bloodline of the prison-suppressing steel clashed with the golden sword radiance. The lower part of the prison-suppressing steel's bloodline was a physical body that was indestructible and firm. The prison-suppressing steel trembled and flew backward. The golden sword light also collapsed instantly. Di Hongqing also retreated rapidly under the impact of the counterattack. This time, Di Hongqing retreated even further than Lu Ming. This made Di Hongqing's face turn extremely ugly. The bloodline of the prison-suppressing steel contains the original body. It is indeed more powerful than the bloodline of the 9 dragons. Lu Ming's heart stirred. Buzz! At this moment, Di Hongqing's body seemed to have turned into a golden sword light, breaking through the void and approaching Lu Ming at an extreme speed. Good. Lu Ming's voice came from the prison-guarding steel. The prison-guarding steel glowed and rushed toward Di Hongqing. Clang! Heaven and earth exploded. The 2 figures retreated and then charged together again. Between heaven and earth, only 2 light figures could be seen constantly attacking and fighting. In the sky, there were constant explosions. The shockwaves formed by the 2's battle were getting more and more terrifying, causing the onlookers to retreat further and further away. In the blink of an eye, the 2 of them had exchanged more than 10 moves. Although Lu Ming had the upper hand, it was just a slight advantage. He could not win against his opponent in a short time. Damn it! Di Hongqing roared in his heart. He was a peak level 2 martial royal realm expert, but he couldn't even take down a young man in the spiritual god realm. He felt humiliated. Go to hell, Emperor's sword! Suddenly, Di Hongqing roared as a golden combat sword appeared above his head. This combat sword wasn't formed by true essence, but a real combat sword, a real spirit weapon. An emperor's spiritual weapon. It was an emperor's spiritual weapon. Di Hongqing held the golden combat sword in his hand, and a terrifying sword chi was slashed at Lu Ming. An emperor's spiritual weapon. What a terrifying power. Facing this sword, Lu Ming's heart could not help but tremble. The emperor's spiritual weapon was the emperor of spiritual weapons. It was originally a weapon used by a peak emperor, and only a peak emperor could fully unleash the power of an emperor's spiritual weapon. Supreme martial artists and even low-level emperors could not unleash the full power of an emperor's spiritual weapon. Therefore, the higher one's cultivation was, the more powerful the emperor's spiritual weapon would be. A second-level martial emperor using an emperor's spiritual weapon would naturally be more powerful than a first-level martial emperor. This sword gave Lu Ming a feeling of extreme danger. Power, power! Lu Ming roared in his heart. More energy from his 3rd bloodline surged into his body, filling his heart with killing intent. However, he could not care less at this moment. The power of the 3rd bloodline and the chaos will covered the prison-guarding steel, making it more powerful than ever. Clang! The golden sword light hit the prison-suppressing steel. The steel shook violently and was sent flying like a meteorite, creating a big hole in the space. On it, the chaos will was almost shattered. The prison-suppressing steel kept buzzing and became transparent. One move and the bloodline power of the prison-suppressing steel was about to be exhausted. Di Hongqing's combat strength had skyrocketed with the addition of his king's spiritual weapon. Lu Ming was no match for him at all. Die! Di Hongqing charged at Lu Ming again. Not good attack. In the north, Xie Luan's expression changed. He took a step forward and traveled 10,000 miles in an instant. Slash! A pitch-black demonic blade appeared in Xie Luan's hand. Demonic chi shot up into the sky, and the blade radiance sliced through the air. A black blade light cut through the endless void and headed toward Di Hongqing. An emperor's spiritual weapon. The demonic blade in Xiao Wan's hand was also an emperor's spiritual weapon. Xiao Wan had created chaos in the world back then, so he naturally had an emperor's spiritual weapon. He had hidden it in a secret place and had only taken it out a while ago. Di Hongqing's expression changed when he saw Xiao Wan's attack. He turned around and slashed his golden sword at Xiao Wan, ignoring Lu Ming. Clang! The two of them exchanged a blow and were evenly matched. Kill! Xiao Wan charged towards Di Hongqing. Di Hongqing had no choice but to fight Xiao Wan. Who? Lu Ming let out a long breath. A peak second-level martial emperor with an emperor's spiritual weapon was too powerful. Lu Ming was not his match. Kill! Kill this bunch of dogs. Kill! At this moment, Yan Kuangdu, Chu Luo, the barbarian emperor and the others had arrived, killing their way into the army of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. Not good. The mountain-breaking martial emperor and the third underworld emperor's expressions changed drastically. There were only two of them, and they were completely outmatched. Go to hell! The barbarian emperor had his eyes on the mountain breaker martial emperor, while Tsulua had his eyes on the third underworld emperor. Both of them started fighting. Chapter 1320. 1320 Chapter 1320 Killing Another Emperor. As for Yan Kuangtu and Mo Yi, they slaughtered their way into the army of the Ditian Divine Palace as if they were entering a no-man's land. With a single move, a large number of experts were killed, and large numbers of corpses fell from the sky. Now kill our way out. In the White Jade Palace of the Tianxia Academy, an emperor gave the order. Kill! The cultivators from the Tianxia Academy also rushed out and surrounded the army of the Ditian Divine Palace. Ah, not good, run. Quickly run. The great army of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace was defeated in an instant and fled for their lives. They had no choice. The emperors of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace were being held back. The Tianxia Academy, Mo Yi, and the others were all emperors. Killing those below the emperor realm was as easy as killing chickens. Even supremes would die with a single slap. Chaos. The army of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace was in complete chaos. They only cared about fleeing for their lives. Some supreme martial artists didn't have the heart to continue fighting and were fleeing frantically. You won't be able to escape. The emperor of the Tianxia Academy had been keeping an eye on these supremes, and they had been killed one by one. This was a one-sided massacre. Blood chi filled the air, and the battle didn't last long. More than half of the army of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace had been killed, and the ground below was covered with corpses. Those who had escaped were those with weak cultivation. No one was interested in killing them. Those with weak cultivation would not affect the overall situation much. There were only 3 battlefields left in the sky above the Tianxia Academy. Xiao Wan fought Di Hongqing. The barbarian emperor was up against the mountain breaker martial emperor, while Chu Luo was up against the third underworld emperor. Let's end this quickly. Let's attack together. Lu Ming's voice rang out as he charged at the third underworld emperor. Although Lu Ming's power of blood meridian had been exhausted and he could not perform the blood meridian fusion, the power of the chaos will that Lu Ming had cast was still terrifying. Boom! Lu Ming approached the third emperor of the dead and threw a punch. This punch carried the will of chaos and crushed the universe. No! The third emperor of the dead felt a fatal danger. He roared in fear and turned into the chi of the netherworld, trying to escape. But under the chaos will, everything was futile. As Lu Ming's fist landed, the third emperor of the dead let out a blood-curdling screech. The netherworld chi was obliterated, and the third emperor of the dead's body reappeared. However, it was already in pieces. His spiritual god had also vanished into thin air under the impact of the punch. Hiss hiss hiss. Tsulua and the other emperors gasped in horror. An ordinary first-level martial royal realm expert was so weak when facing Lu Ming that he was killed by a single punch. Get lost. The mountain-breaking martial emperor was almost scared to death at the sight of this, and he charged forward madly. However, the barbarian emperor blocked his way. Other than the barbarian emperor, Mo Yi, Yan Kuangtu, and the others had also made their moves, leaving the mountain breaker martial emperor with no way out. After Lu Ming killed the third underworld emperor, he walked toward the mountain breaker martial emperor. The mountain breaker martial emperor was extremely frightened. Di Hongqing, save me. Martial Emperor Mountain Breaker yelled to Di Hongqing for help. However, Di Hongqing couldn't free himself from the battle with Xiel Wan, so he could only protect himself. Xiel Wan had been at the third level of the martial royal realm at his peak. However, he had been suppressed by the prison-suppressing steel for 30,000 years and his essence had been injured, so he could not recover to his peak. However, he had rich combat experience. Although his realm was the same as Di Hongqing's, he was still more powerful than Di Hongqing. Di Hongqing could only protect himself. He couldn't free his divine body to save the mountain breaker martial emperor. If you dare to go against our Di family, you will all die. In the end, Di Hongqing roared and exchanged a blow with Xiel Wan. Then, he turned into a sword light and shot away. He had actually escaped. Xiel Wan didn't pursue him. Although he was slightly stronger than Di Hongqing, there was a limit to his strength. He couldn't keep Di Hongqing here. No! Seeing Di Hongqing running away, Martial Emperor Mountain Breaker shouted in despair. As for Lu Ming, he was already not far away from the Mountain Breaker Martial Emperor, and his cold, killing intent enveloped him. Don't kill me! I surrender! I surrender! The mountain-breaking martial emperor shouted. He had seen the third underworld emperor's fate clearly. If he didn't surrender, he would die. We can surrender, but give up resisting and let us seal our cultivation. Lu Ming said. Lu Ming did not necessarily have to kill the other party. After all, the other party was a martial royal realm expert. If they surrendered and helped them, it would be beneficial to them. Faced with such a situation, the mountain breaker martial emperor was helpless and could only give up on resisting. He understood that even if he resisted with all his might, he would only be killed in the end. He might as well trust Lu Ming this once. Seal his cultivation. Lu Ming ordered. Immediately, the barbarian emperor, Chu Luo, and Mo Yi joined forces to seal the mountain breaker martial emperor's cultivation base. The battle had finally come to an end. It ended with the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace's defeat. Almost all the experts that were sent here had died in battle. Only Di Hongqing had escaped, the third underworld emperor had died in battle, and the mountain breaker martial emperor had surrendered. They had suffered heavy losses. Lu Ming, thank you. The two deans of the Tianxia Academy came to Lu Ming and cupped their fists to thank him. You're too kind, deans. Brother Kong Xian and I are friends. How can Lu Ming sit by and do nothing when the Tianxia Academy is in trouble? Lu Ming said. Lu. Brother Lu. Kong Xian and Goddess Tan Xiang came together and saluted Lu Ming. They had mixed feelings. He still remembered that not long after the Battle of Providence had ended, Lu Ming had changed his name to Lu Shaoqing and arrived in the Central Continent. At that time, Lu Ming's combat strength was only about the same as theirs. In fact, his cultivation level was not even as high as theirs. However, it had only been a few years, and there were already earth-shattering changes. Lu Ming's cultivation level and combat strength had far surpassed them. He stood at the peak of the divine wilderness continent. They might not be able to catch up to Lu Ming even if they spent their entire lives. Brother Kong, Fairy, how have you been? Lu Ming smiled. Then, he looked at the two deans of the Tianxia Academy and said, My two courtyards, the world is in chaos now. What are you planning to do? Sigh, we haven't thought it through yet. A director with a tall figure sighed. In Tianxia Academy, there were those who cultivated the martial path and those who cultivated the inscription path. Of the two deans, one cultivated the martial path and the other cultivated the inscription path. The taller dean cultivated martial arts, while the thinner dean cultivated the Tao of inscription. How about this? Why don't the Tianxia Academy form an alliance with us and head to the northern plains together? This way, our strength will be even stronger and we will have a greater chance of resisting the Ditian Divine Palace. Lu Ming suggested. The two deans of the Tianxia Academy looked at each other, then cupped their hands together and said, Lu Ming, we have the same intention. That's good, then let's not delay this any longer. We will set off for northern plains now. If we are late, the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace will most likely come. Lu Ming said. All right, we'll set off immediately. You may enter the White Jade Palace. It's a secret treasure. The tall director said. All right. Lu Ming nodded and the group flew into the White Jade Palace. Xie Luan didn't say anything during this process. Chapter 1321. 1321. The alliance between DE and the Xie family. Ever since he saw Lu Ming's combat ability, he had a plan in mind. In the past, he had formed an alliance with Lu Ming because he saw Lu Ming's potential. The condition of the alliance was that Lu Ming would be able to guide him when he joined a major sect in the Yuanlu continent. He had been suppressed for 30,000 years, and all his family and friends had turned into dust. He no longer had any worries about the divine wilderness continent. In his eyes, there was only cultivation, and the pursuit of higher martial arts. He had no interest in power. Therefore, after seeing Lu Ming's current combat level, he planned to slowly hand over the power to Lu Ming. He would just assist Lu Ming. Lu Ming had obviously thought of this as well. He glanced at Xie Luan but did not say anything. Lu Ming now had friends, family, and loved ones. If he wanted to protect these people, he needed power and authority. Since Xie Luan had intentionally given in, he would not be polite either. The group entered the White Jade Palace. It shone and broke open the space, directly entering the alternate dimension and heading towards northern plains. Not long after. Northern plains, in the sky above the 100 Beasts tribe, the space split open and the White Jade Palace appeared. After a while, the conference hall of the 100 Beasts tribe was filled with people. All the higher-ups of Northern Plains, as well as the experts of Tianxia Academy, were almost all present. Xie Luan and Lu Ming were still sitting at the very top. Many people looked at Lu Ming with respect and awe. The news of Lu Ming's battle at Tianxia Academy had spread. It was easy for him to defeat a peak second-level martial emperor and kill a first-level martial emperor. This level of combat strength was already at the peak of the divine wilderness continent, looking down on everyone. Moreover, Lu Ming was still so young and his cultivation level was only at the spiritual god stage. No one could predict Lu Ming's future and potential. They looked at Lu Ming with respect and awe. Everyone, we have received news that DE of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace is going to form an alliance with the Xie family of the ancient Saint Dynasty. After everyone was seated, an emperor from the Tianxia Academy announced a shocking piece of news. Everyone gasped when they heard the news. What? The Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace wants to form an alliance with the Xie clan? Is this true? We're in trouble. The discussion hall was instantly in an uproar. It's absolutely true. In a month's time, the two sides will hold an alliance ceremony in the holy city. The burly emperor of the Tianxia Academy said. The scene fell silent again. Everyone frowned, their expressions grave. Now, the strongest force in the divine wilderness continent was, without a doubt, the Ditian Divine Palace, led by D. The Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace gathered the power of the Eastern Barren Territory and the Southern Netherworld. In addition, some of the hegemonic powers of the Central Continent had also surrendered, and their power was growing stronger and stronger. Most importantly, the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace had 3 peak experts. They were like 3 huge mountains that weighed down on everyone's hearts. Other than the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace, the other strongest forces were the Xie family of the ancient sacred dynasty and his allies. There was also the heaven-suppressing divine army and its allies. And then there was their northern plains. Western Desert had always stayed out of it. Not participating in the battle meant that it was excluded. Out of the 4 great powers, the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace was the strongest. However, the royal Xie clan had a history of over 1,000,000 years. In terms of their foundations, they were definitely the strongest. No one could see through them, and they definitely couldn't be underestimated. Now, these two giants were about to join forces. Could the other forces still compete with them? Originally, although the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace was strong, their foundation was not strong enough, and the number of emperors they had was relatively small. Including D, there were still 2 experts at the peak of the second level of the martial royal realm, the southern underworld's emperor, and some surrendered emperors. There were only a dozen of them. In this regard, the number of emperors from the Xie family and their allies, as well as the heaven-suppressing divine army and their allies, all surpassed that of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. Even in northern plains, the number of emperors added up to more than 10. Although the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace was powerful at its peak, they didn't have many emperors. The other powers could still contend against them. But now, the alliance between the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace and the Xie clan could make up for this weakness. At that time, they would definitely be able to sweep across the world. Be it the heaven-suppressing divine army or northern plains, they would find it hard to contend against them. Thinking of this, everyone's hearts were extremely heavy. Why would the Xie clan and the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace form an alliance? No one could figure it out. With the current momentum of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace, what would happen to the Xie family if they unified the divine wilderness? There must be an unknown transaction in this. What should we do now? Someone asked. The scene was silent, and no one spoke. Even Xie Luan and Lu Ming were frowning. Let's talk about our own opinions and discuss it. Lu Ming spoke after a while. That's right, tell me. Xie Luan said. Everyone chimed in, expressing their own opinions. Some people suggested taking the initiative to attack one side and fight with them to break the alliance. However, there were people who immediately rebutted. The strength of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace was extremely strong, and those 3 peak experts were unrivaled. It wasn't a wise decision to attack the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. As for the Xie family, they were in charge of the Holy City and had a deep foundation. The Holy City had never been breached before, so it was very dangerous to attack the Xie family. These people advocated defense and held fast to northern plains. Everyone spoke one after another. They argued until they finally reached a consensus to defend northern plains and raise their strength. Their hopes were on Xie Luan and Lu Ming. Xie Luan was originally a Level 3 martial royal realm expert. He had only been injured to the core and needed time to recover. If they held their ground and did not come out, the situation would change when Xie Luan recovered to the 3rd level of the martial royal realm. They would have the upper hand in terms of peak combat strength. The other person was Lu Ming. Lu Ming was still young and his cultivation level was only at the perfected spiritual god realm. If Lu Ming's cultivation level were to improve further, he would become even stronger and be able to change the outcome of the battle. Therefore, the final result of the discussion was to hold on, wait, and improve their strength. Lu Ming did not object to this. What he lacked now was time. As long as he had time, the pure spirit body would improve every day, and his strength would become stronger and stronger. Furthermore, if he broke through to the supreme level, his chaos intent would transform into the early stage of the chaos domain. His combat strength would increase dramatically, and he would not be afraid even if he faced a peak Level 2 martial royal realm expert with an emperor's spiritual weapon. In the end, Lu Ming and Xie Luan finalized this plan. That's right, Big Brother Yan. At this moment, Lu Ming's gaze turned to Yan Kuangte. Senior by Shijin, where are Senior Du Songjue and the others? Why haven't I seen him? Logically speaking, with Lu Ming's return and such a major event happening in the Divine Wilderness continent, by Shijin, Du Songjue and the rest would definitely take the inter-territory teleportation array to come and discuss matters. However, ever since Lu Ming returned, they had not been seen. After Lu Ming spoke, Yan Kuangtu's expression changed. His gaze was complicated, and he hesitated to speak. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He had a bad feeling. Sure enough, When Lu Ming's gaze swept across Xiel Wan, the barbarian emperor, Chu Luo, and the others, he saw that they had complicated looks in their eyes and did not dare to look him in the eye. Lu Ming's bad premonition grew stronger. Chapter 1322. 1322 Chapter 1322 Shocking news, bringing forward the decisive battle. Big Brother Yen, what's going on? Lu Ming looked at Yen Kuangtu and emphasized his words. His eyes were bright as he stared at Yen Kuangtu. Yen Kuangtu's expression changed. Finally, he let out a long sigh and said, Lu Ming, I didn't want to tell you at first, but since your combat strength has already reached such a level, there's no harm in telling you. The Yin and Yang formation of the Talisman Amulet sect has been broken by Martial Emperor Di. What? Yen Kuangtu's words were like thunder, ringing in Lu Ming's heart. When Lu Ming returned, he heard a series of important news. Then he heard that the Tianxia Academy was attacked. He immediately rushed to the Tianxia Academy and did not have time to ask about the Talisman Amulet sect. He did not expect such an unforeseen event to happen. In Lu Ming's subconscious mind, the Talisman Amulet sect could still hold on for a while. Therefore, Lu Ming did not ask much about it. A few months ago, Martial Emperor Di attacked. The first one was the Myriad Demon Valley, which was easily destroyed. The second one was the Talisman sect. Although the Talisman Amulet sect's Yin and Yang formation was powerful and could block DE alone, the Yin and Yang formation could not block DE and the other two peak lever 2 Martial Royal Realm experts, attacks together with the king's spiritual weapon. At that time, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, Master, and the others controlled the Yin and Yang formation in order to stall for time so that the others could move. In the end, most of the people moved to northern plains, but Master, Bai Shijin, and the others fell into DE's hands. Yen Kuangtu explained in detail. Most of the Talisman Amulet sect's disciples, Lu Ming's parents, Hua Qi, and the others had all been transferred to the northern plains through the inter-territory teleportation array. However, the 9 Sons Supreme, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the other higher-ups were in DE's hands. General Lu, you don't have to worry too much. Since Di didn't do anything at that time and kept them alive, I don't think he will kill them so quickly. Someone spoke and persuaded Lu Ming. Indeed. I didn't kill them but kept them alive. They must be useful. They shouldn't be in danger for the time being. The others also advised. At this moment, many people's expressions changed, and a jade voice transmission talisman appeared in their hands. There must have been some important news, as some of the higher-ups had received the news at the same time. They all sent their holy senses to the jade voice transmission talismans. How did this happen? Yen Kuangtu saw the jade talisman and exclaimed. He was too excited to suppress the Zhen Yuan in his body. A powerful aura burst out from his body, and a layer of burning flames spread out from his body, causing the temperature in the hall to rise sharply. Damn it! Detestable! The others also began to roar in rage, their faces extremely unsightly, including Xiel Wan and the other emperors. What is it? What's going on? Lu Ming's eyes swept across the room and he had a bad feeling. He had just returned, so naturally, no one had sent him any news. General Lu. Many people looked at Lu Ming, wanting to say something but stopped. Lu Ming. Yen Kuangtu clenched his fists tightly. His eyes were red with anger. His body was trembling in anger. What's going on? Speak. Lu Ming shouted angrily. His eyes were like lightning, and his body emitted a powerful aura. But everyone looked at each other, and still no one spoke. I'll see for myself. Lu Ming moved and pounced on one of the Supreme Beings. The Supreme Being could not resist at all, and the voice transmission jade talisman in his hand was snatched away by Lu Ming. After Lu Ming scanned the contents of the voice transmission jade talisman with his spiritual senses, his expression changed drastically. He became extremely ugly and a cold, murderous intent burst out from his body. Xie family. Lu Ming spat out these words. They were so cold that they sent chills down one's spine. There was only one message in the jade talisman. Just now, the Xie clan and the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace of the ancient Saint dynasty had sent out a joint message. A month later, the Xie clan and the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace would hold an alliance ceremony in the sacred city. At that time, they would kill the rebels, including Xia Jiuyang, Bai Shijin, and Du Songjue, and use their blood as a sacrifice. The short message made Lu Ming's killing intent reach its peak. Everyone's gaze fell on Lu Ming. Everyone knew that Lu Ming was the Zongzi of the Talisman Amulet sect and had a close relationship with the Nine Sons Supreme. Lu Ming would definitely not sit by and do nothing. De of the Xie family, in that case, kill him. After uttering the last word, Lu Ming's body burst with a strong fighting spirit. His gaze seemed to penetrate the void and look at the holy city hundreds of millions of miles away. Lu Ming, you want to go to the holy city? Don't be impulsive. This must be a scheme of De and the Xie family. During the battle at the Tianxia Academy, he must have known your combat power. He was afraid of you, so he spread this news. His purpose is to lure you to the sacred city and then kill you. You can't be fooled. Xie Wan hurriedly said. In that case, I'll do as they wish. I'll make a trip to the holy city in a month. Lu Ming's eyes were cold. You can't, General Lu. With our current strength, we're no match for the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Xie family. That's right. Moreover, it's in the holy city, which is even more dangerous. The others persuaded Lu Ming one after another. The holy city in a month's time was undoubtedly a dragon's pool and a tiger's denver. It would be extremely dangerous to head there. It's not impossible to fight. I wanted to wait for a while to make more preparations, but since that's the case, let's bring forward the decisive battle. Lu Ming's voice was cold and his eyes were filled with determination. He had to save Nine Sons Supreme, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the others. Otherwise, what was the point of killing De and the others in the future? At this moment, outside the Tianxia Academy's Wanxiang Jade Wall, the space suddenly rippled. Then a figure stepped out of the space. If someone saw this, they would definitely exclaim. It was because he was Lu Ming. To be more precise, he was Lu Ming's second body. Lu Ming's second body had received the inheritance of the mysterious Sky Saint and had been cultivating the Tao of Inscription. Now, Lu Ming had finally summoned it. The Xie family, let's fight. Lu Ming whispered, his eyes cold. He took a step forward and the space cracked automatically. He then disappeared. 100 Beasts Tribe, Meeting Hall. Bring forward the decisive battle? General Lu, you can't do that. We're not strong enough. Yes, we can't stop De and the two Lever 2 Martial Royal Realm experts. General Lu, we need to plan this carefully. The others persuaded Lu Ming one after another. Most importantly, Yi and the two Peak Lever 2 Martial Royal Realm experts both had king's spiritual weapons. They were so powerful that ordinary kings could only be killed by them. How could it be blocked? A month later, all these experts would definitely be present in the holy city. They were waiting for Lu Ming. It would be unwise to fight a decisive battle with the other party at this moment. Lu Ming raised his hand and the hall fell silent. Since I'm going, I'll fight a battle that I'm confident in. Since I'm going to save people, how can I, Lu Ming, sacrifice your lives for nothing? Let's go, Lu Ming said. His glabella lit up and a figure appeared beside him, exuding a vast aura. Chapter 1323. 1323 Lu Ming's Trump Card. Greetings, young master. The figure saluted Lu Ming as soon as it appeared. An emperor. This is the sea-suppressing divine ape? It's indeed the sea-suppressing divine ape. In the hall, there was a sound. Lu Ming was actually followed by an emperor and a sea-suppressing divine ape. From the looks of it, the sea-suppressing divine ape was very respectful beside Lu Ming. It was obvious that it had been subdued by Lu Ming. Although the crowd was amazed that even an existence like the sea-suppressing divine ape had been subdued by Lu Ming, the appearance of the sea-suppressing divine ape could not change the outcome of the battle. The sea-suppressing divine ape was only equivalent to an ordinary emperor. Lu Ming smiled faintly. His glabella glowed again and another figure appeared beside him. This time, Tu Qian appeared. Everyone's gaze landed on Tu Qian. Boom! A terrifying aura burst out from Tu Qian's body. This is a puppet? It's really a puppet. What a terrifying aura. It's equivalent to the peak of Lever 2 Martial Royal Realm. Heavens, it's really... The strength of his aura isn't any weaker than the chaotic Sky Emperor's. Tu Qian's appearance caused the entire place to go into an uproar. Everyone was shocked. When everyone looked at Lu Ming, the respect in their eyes grew. Not only was Lu Ming's combat strength strong, but he also had such a powerful expert by his side. When they added up, his strength was terrifying. He's Tu Qian. Everyone can see that he's a puppet with a cultivation equivalent to the peak of the second-level Martial Royal Realm. He's strong enough to resist an expert at the peak of the second-level Martial Royal Realm. Lu Ming said. But the other party has an Emperor's spiritual weapon. Someone said. Who said he doesn't have any? Lu Ming smiled. His palm glowed and a huge axe appeared in his hand. He then flew towards Tu Qian. An Emperor's spiritual weapon. Some people's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Lu Ming's methods were endless. First, he had experts like the sea-suppressing divine ape and Tu Qian. Now, he could even take out an Emperor's spiritual weapon. Some of them knew that the Emperor's spirit tower in Yan Kuangtu's hands belonged to Lu Ming. Now, Lu Ming had taken out another Emperor's spiritual weapon. Many people had nothing to say. It was normal for something unbelievable to happen to Lu Ming. Lu Ming, Tu Qian can deal with a second-level Martial Emperor expert. I can deal with one, but there's still one left, he said. Xiao Wan spoke, his eyes still somewhat grave. Leave the other one to me. Lu Ming said, his voice full of confidence. You. Xiao Wan was slightly taken aback. The others were stunned as well. Although Lu Ming was strong and not weaker than a peak second-level Martial Emperor, he was no match for the other party after he had an Emperor's spiritual weapon. Moreover, it was obvious that Lu Ming did not have a suitable Emperor's spiritual weapon. An Emperor's spiritual weapon had to be compatible with one's attribute in order to unleash its power. Most importantly, even if Lu Ming had a suitable Emperor's spiritual weapon, it would be useless. The reason why the Emperor's spiritual weapon was so powerful was that the user had activated the domain in it. In order to activate the domain of an Emperor's spiritual weapon, one had to at least comprehend the early stage of the domain. Lu Ming's cultivation had not reached the supreme level, so even if he had a suitable Emperor's spiritual weapon, he would not be able to unleash its power. Then, how could Lu Ming block a peak Lever 2 Martial Royal Realm expert? At this moment, Lu Ming raised his head and looked in the direction of the door. Buzz! At the entrance, a figure suddenly appeared. It was a young man with a slender figure and a handsome face. He was wearing a white robe with strange patterns. He had an ethereal temperament, like a god. Lu. General Lu? What's going on? Most of the people were stunned as they looked at the figure at the gate. That's right. At the entrance was Lu Ming's Ming Lian clone. Everyone's spiritual sense swept over Ming Lian's body and they were even more shocked. That was because the aura of the Ming Lian clone was exactly the same as Lu Ming's. They were clearly the same person. Other than Yan Kuangtu and a few others, everyone else had a dumbstruck expression. Why were there two Lu Mings? Moreover, Lu Ming's aura was too shocking. A vast pressure filled the hall and put everyone under great pressure. An emperor, this was the pressure of an emperor. That's right, Lu Ming's inscription clone had received the inheritance of the mysterious Sky Saint. After cultivating hard every day, he had finally broken through to a 9th-level inscription master not long ago and became an emperor. The Ming Lian clone had just broken through not long ago. Lu Ming had planned to let the Ming Lian clone stabilize for a while, but now he had no choice but to recall the clone in advance. He's me, I'm him. Lu Ming's main body smiled. The clone nodded at Lu Ming and took a step forward. Its body shrunk rapidly and rushed into the space between Lu Ming's eyebrows. It sat cross-legged in Lu Ming's sea of consciousness. Many people were flabbergasted and had yet to react. Could this be Lu Ming's clone? Lu Ming actually had a clone that was equivalent to an emperor. Lu Ming was becoming more and more mysterious in everyone's hearts. Leave the other peak lever 2 martial royal realm expert to me, Lu Ming said. However, Xiao Wan and the others still looked solemn. Lu Ming, the holy city is the Xie family's base camp. They have a deep and unfathomable foundation. No one knows what tricks they have up their sleeves, but according to my speculation, there will definitely be a lot of King's spiritual weapons. There might even be people at the peak of the 2nd-level martial emperor realm. Xiao Wan said. 30,000 years ago, Xiao Wan had fought against the Xie clan, so he was well aware of the Xie clan's methods. Back then, Xiao Wan had swept across the world with his cultivation at the peak of the 3rd-level martial royal realm. No one could defeat him. However, he was still suppressed by the Xie family in the end. Although the Xie family seemed to have declined, they could not be underestimated. Lu Ming nodded. This battle was of utmost importance. It concerned everyone's lives and the future of the divine wilderness continent. It had to be taken seriously. Moreover, even if we're not weak in terms of high-end combat strength, there are many emperors when the Xie family and the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace join forces. We're no match for them in this aspect, Xiao Wan said. The others also fell into deep thought. That was indeed the case. Their overall combat strength was still far from that of the Xie clan and the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace. In terms of high-end combat strength, I still have a trump card. It's not a problem for me to fight against 2 peak lever 2 martial royal realm experts. As for overall strength, we need to find allies. Don't forget that the heaven-suppressing divine army is more anxious than us. Lu Ming smiled and seemed to be very confident. Xiao Wan's eyes lit up. That's right. If that's the case, we'll have a chance with the heaven-suppressing divine army. Alright, Lu Ming, I'll go with you to the heaven-suppressing divine army after a while. We'll decide the outcome of this battle with one battle. We will definitely win this battle. Lu Ming's confident voice was heard. We will definitely win. The others were infected and also shouted. Next, they discussed some specific details. After half a day, the crowd dispersed. Chapter 1324. 1324. The divine wilderness trembled, seeing Fatty again. After the meeting ended, Lu Ming immediately went to meet his parents, Lu Yuntian and Li Ping. The people who had retreated from the Talisman sect were all settled in the 100 Beasts tribe. Naturally, Lu Yuntian and Li Ping were overjoyed to see Lu Ming. Li Ping's tears were flowing uncontrollably. When the experts of the Gate of God came and announced Lu Ming's death, Lu Yuntian and Li Ping naturally heard the news as well. It was as if they had been struck by lightning, and the 2 old men almost could not take it. However, they had a feeling that Lu Ming was not dead. He should still be alive. Indeed, they had heard the news that Lu Ming had returned and that his cultivation had reached an unbelievable level. He could stand shoulder to shoulder with the top experts of the divine wilderness continent. The old couple was extremely confident and excited. Lu Ming heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that the 2 elders were fine. He chatted with them for a long time before he bade them farewell and left. In a secret room, Lu Ming's main body and secondary body sat opposite each other. Lu Ming's main body waved his hand and various mystical materials flew out. Fire spiritual root, Emperor's blood stone, Earth Emperor essence. They were all spirit herbs and rare treasures for refining nirvana pills. Lu Ming planned to let his second body refine the nirvana pill. Lu Ming had already collected all the supplementary spiritual herbs for the nirvana elixir. The most difficult ones to collect were the 7 main spiritual materials. When he was in the continent of the divine ruins, Lu Ming had already collected 6 of them. He was still short of the last one, the 8-pointed frozen grass. However, he did not expect that during the fight for the pure spirit body, Lu Ming would kill the purple and golden-robed elder from the sea-suppressing marshal's residence and find an 8-pointed frozen grass in his storage ring. With that, he had gathered all the 7 main spiritual ingredients and could start making the nirvana elixir. Ming Lian waved his hand and a pill furnace appeared. Then, all the materials for the Nirvana pill flew towards him. Lu Ming's main body moved and appeared at the side. He sat cross-legged, closed his eyes, and began to cultivate. As his fingers moved rapidly, countless inscriptions appeared and wrapped all the mystical materials. He began to refine the body. The profound sky saint was a being who had become a saint through the Tao of inscription. He had profound attainments in formations, refining weapons, and alchemy. Lu Ming had obtained the inheritance of the profound sky saint and became an emperor. Naturally, his alchemy skills were also profound. The golden flames of inscription appeared and wrapped around the various mystical materials, and the process began. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. In these 3 days, the entire divine wilderness continent was in an uproar because of the 2 pieces of news. On the first day, Lu Ming, the unparalleled genius who was said to have died in the divine ruins, returned. The moment he returned, he participated in the Battle of Tianxia Academy. In this battle, Lu Ming had displayed shocking combat strength. With his spiritual god realm cultivation, he could easily kill an emperor and fight with a peak level 2 martial royal realm expert. This news was like a magnitude 10 earthquake, causing a huge wave. In the divine wilderness continent, countless cultivators were dumbfounded. They could not believe it. Then, another piece of news came out. The Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace would form an alliance with the ancient Saint Dynasty's Xie clan in the sacred city a month later. At that time, they would kill Supreme Nine Sons, Bai Shijin and the others, and use their blood as a sacrifice to the flag. Once this news spread, it also caused 1,000 waves. Some people who knew the inside story could even see that something was unusual. The Nine Sons Supreme, Bai Shijin, and the others had a close relationship with Lu Ming. Since the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Xie family had spread this news at this time, it was obviously related to Lu Ming. Some people speculated that this move was most likely to lure Lu Ming to the holy city and then kill him. This was an open conspiracy, not a conspiracy. Even if the whole world knew the motive of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace and the Xie family, Lu Ming still had to go if he had to, unless he didn't care about the life and death of Nine Sons Supreme and the others. It looks like the divine wilderness continent is about to change. There's going to be an earth-shattering battle in the holy city. Someone sighed, paying attention to the situation. At this moment, Lu Ming received a voice transmission that someone was paying him a visit. Lu Ming came out of the secret chamber to meet the people who had come to visit him. They were Bai Qixue, Huan Zhen, Ji Mai, and the other paragons of the Talisman sect. Your subordinate greets you, Zongzi. As soon as they saw Lu Ming, Huan Zhen, Bai Qixue, and the others, they bowed their heads and bowed respectfully. Qixue, Brother Huan, what are you doing? We're all friends, there's no need to be so polite. Lu Ming waved his hand and an invisible force lifted Huan Zhen and the rest, making them unable to bow down. The few of them had complicated feelings. They knew that Lu Ming's current cultivation level had far surpassed theirs. The gap between them was huge. Among them, Huan Zhen, who had the strongest cultivation, was only a level 7 alchemist. He had yet to break through to level 8. Bai Qixue had received the inheritance of a level 9 alchemist and had made great progress in the past few years. However, she was still not as good as Huan Zhen. Lu Ming, we're here to beg you. You have to save Master and the others. Bai Qixue's eyes were filled with tears, and her face looked miserable. Sigh, Lu Ming, we're useless. We can't save Master and the rest. We can only rely on you now. Huan Zhen sighed. Ever since the news that the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace and the Xie family had formed an alliance to kill Bai Shijin and the others spread, Huan Zhen, Bai Qixue, and the others had panicked. At this critical moment, they could only think of Lu Ming. That was why they had come to find him together. Although they knew that it would be dangerous to save Bai Shijin and the others, they had no choice. Qixue, Brother Huan, don't worry. Lu Ming is greatly indebted to all the seniors. He will definitely not let anything happen to them. Lu Ming said with a determined look. Lu Ming's words seemed to be infectious. Bai Qixue and the others' anxious hearts calmed down a little. Soon Bai Qixue and the others left. Before leaving, Bai Qixue cast a glance at Lu Ming. Her heart was filled with complicated feelings. She used to have some feelings for Lu Ming, but now, the distance between them was extremely far apart. They were people from two completely different worlds. She could only bury those feelings deep in her heart. After Bai Qixue and the rest left, Lu Ming received news that someone had come to visit him. Fatty, Tingting, Senior Motion. To Lu Ming's surprise, Fatty Kong Jin, Ruan Tingting, and the Devil Sky King were the ones who came. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Ever since the War of Providence ended and Fatty and Ruan Tingting left with the Devil Sky Emperor to cultivate, there had been no news from them for many years. Lu Ming did not expect that Fatty and the rest would come here to look for him. "Ha, Lu Ming, long time no see. I really missed you." Upon seeing Lu Ming, the Fatty laughed and gave Lu Ming a bear hug. "Fatty, your figure is even more well-developed," Lu Ming said with a smile. Fatty's figure was indeed fatter than before. "Haha." Fatty laughed awkwardly. "Lu Ming, you're amazing now. You can even kill an emperor. The gap between us is getting bigger and bigger." Fatty quickly changed the topic. "You're not bad either." Lu Ming punched the Fatty. After not seeing each other for a few years, Fatty had also made great progress. He had already reached the 5th level of the spiritual god realm. His progress could be said to be divine. One had to know that Fatty had only awakened an 8th level divine rank bloodline. Lu Ming then greeted Ruan Tingting and the Devil Sky King. "Oh right, Fatty, where have you been all these years?" Lu Ming asked. Chapter 1325. 1325 Nirvana Pill, complete. We followed Master to the ocean. Following that, Fatty gave a rough account of his experiences over the years. Back then, after the Battle of Providence had ended, they had followed the demonic sky sovereign overseas to cultivate. Fatty had already obtained some fortuitous encounters in the Battle of Providence. In addition, he had also obtained some fortuitous encounters overseas. Over the years, his cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds, reaching the 5th level of the spiritual god realm. His rate of improvement was even faster than many of the heaven's favorites who had awakened to the 9th level of the divine level. Even Ruan Tingting had barely reached the peak of the spirit embryo realm. This time, when they returned, they realized that the divine wilderness continent had been completely transformed. Moreover, they had also heard the news about Lu Ming and the alliance between the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace and the Xie family. They deduced that Lu Ming would definitely have a battle with the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace and the Xie family. Therefore, they rushed over to help Lu Ming. Lu Ming was very touched. He immediately arranged for the Fatty, the Devil Sky King, and the rest to stay in their rooms. The addition of the demonic sky sovereign meant that they had one more sovereign on their side, which was a great help. Then, Lu Ming returned to the secret alchemy room. In the blink of an eye, another 3 days had passed. The Nirvana pill was finally about to be successfully refined. Lu Ming's main body ended its cultivation and opened his eyes. A strong medicinal fragrance came out of the pill furnace. "Open!" After a while, he lightly drank it and opened the pill furnace. An even stronger medicinal fragrance rushed out. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The moment the pill furnace was opened, 9 milky white rays of light flew out from it. "Collect!" The second body waved his hand, and dense runes appeared in the sky, wrapping around the 9 rays of light. Within the light, there were 9 milky white pills with strange patterns on them. The pill danced within the inscriptions as if it had a mind of its own. The second body took out a jade bottle and put away all 9 pills. It was a success. The Nirvana elixir had been successfully refined. Lu Ming was overjoyed to have obtained a total of 9 Nirvana elixir. Although the Nirvana elixir was of no use to him, it was a priceless treasure to other martialists who had not awakened a 9th level divine bloodline. Buzz! The second body entered the main body's glabella and disappeared. Lu Ming kept the nirvana pills and left the secret chamber. Not long after, Lu Ming invited Yan Kuangtu and Fatty Kong Jin to his residence. "Lu Ming, what good news do you have for me?" he asked. The fatty's small eyes were spinning. Lu Ming smiled. He had not seen this guy for a few years. He had not changed at all. "This time, there's indeed something good." Lu Ming smiled and a jade bottle appeared. 2 nirvana pills flew out from the bottle and flew to Fatty and Yan Kuangtu. As soon as the 2 of them smelled the medicinal fragrance of the nirvana pill, they knew that it was definitely not an ordinary pill. They quickly wrapped it with their true qi and grabbed it. "Lu Ming, what kind of pill is this?" Yan Kuangtu asked curiously. "This pill is called the nirvana pill. After consuming it, it will allow one's bloodline to achieve nirvana. There is a certain chance that it can raise one's bloodline by 1 or even 2 levels." Lu Ming explained. "What?" Yan Kuangtu and Fatty were completely stunned. It could actually allow one's bloodline to achieve nirvana and increase in level. This was too heaven-defying, right? Their hearts were beating fast. Both of their bloodlines were at the 8th level of the divine level. Although they seemed to be of a very high level, they were in fact not perfect. Only a 9th-ranked divine level expert would have a perfect bloodline. In the great sects of the Yuan continent, the minimum requirement for recruiting disciples was to awaken a 9th-level divine bloodline. The 2 of them naturally yearned for 9th-level divine level bloodlines. However, bloodlines were inborn. Unless they were like Lu Ming, who had awakened the heaven-defying 9-dragon bloodline, it would be difficult for them to improve. But now, the pill in their hands could improve their bloodline, and their breathing became heavier. "Lu Ming, this pill is too precious." Yan Kuangtu took a deep breath and was the first to calm down. He looked at Lu Ming and said, "Big brother Yan, just accept it. The nirvana pill will be the most useful for you." Lu Ming smiled. "That's good." Yan Kuangtu wasn't a wishy-washy person, so he immediately put them away. Kong Jin, on the other hand, wasn't polite at all. Most importantly, the nirvana elixir was too useful for them. Once their bloodline reached divine level 9, it would not be difficult for them to break through to the emperor level. There were only 9 nirvana pills. Lu Ming only planned to give them to Yan Kuangtu and Fatty for the time being. This was because their bloodlines were the closest to the 9th level of the divine level, so they were the most useful. Lu Ming wanted to give the rest to Lu Yuntian. Lu Ming also wanted to help Li Ping cultivate martial arts. Only by cultivating martial arts could one's lifespan be extended and Li Ping could live for a longer time. Although Li Ping did not have the talent for cultivation and she was old, it was not a problem for Lu Ming with his current means. With the help of the nirvana elixir and the awakening of Li Ping's bloodline, it would not be a problem for her to cultivate to the martial king realm or even the spirit ocean realm. Also, his 2 in-name disciples, Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaro. Ever since he had taken them in as his disciples, Lu Ming had not taught them well. As their master, Lu Ming was not very responsible. Therefore, he had to leave 2 nirvana pills for them. In that case, there were only 3 nirvana pills left. Lu Ming planned to keep them for now. Also, here's a secret technique that's suitable for you. 2 jade tokens flew out of Lu Ming's hands and flew towards Yan Kuangtu and the fatty. After the 2 of them took a look, they were stunned again. Their eyes widened and their mouths opened so wide that they could swallow 2 duck eggs. They were shocked. They were too shocked. This was because the secret skill in the jade token was the cultivation method for a pure spirit body. Lu Ming made a few copies. There's actually such a profound secret technique in the world. Yan Kuangtu sighed, and at the same time he was moved. He had been stuck at the supreme level for many years. Now that he had the nirvana elixir and the pure spirit body, he was confident that he could break through to the emperor realm in less than a year. "Ha, Lu Ming, you're my lucky star." The fat man did not stand on ceremony and quickly kept the pure spirit body cultivation method. "Lu Ming, thank you." Yan Kuangtu cupped his fists at Lu Ming solemnly. "Big brother Yan, with our relationship, there's no need to thank me." Lu Ming smiled. After Yan Kuangtu and Fatty left, Lu Ming began to cultivate in seclusion with all his might. It was getting closer and closer to the 1-month deadline. Lu Ming wanted to improve his abilities as much as possible during this period of time. Only a pure spirit body could increase his strength in a short time. Therefore, Lu Ming put all his effort into cultivating the pure spirit body. A huge amount of raw gemstones were refined by Lu Ming and turned into the strength of his physical body. Finally, after half a month, the pure spirit body made another breakthrough and reached 60%. Lu Ming's ability would increase with every 10% increase in his strength. At this time, there was still a week left before the 1-month deadline. I should go to the heaven-suppressing divine army. Lu Ming took a step out of the secret cultivation room. Not long after, Lu Ming and Xiao Wan broke through the void and left the 100 Beasts tribe. Chapter 1326. 1326 Chapter 1326 Heaven-Suppressing Divine Army. In Central Continent, near Northern Plains, there was a vast mountain range. This was where the Heaven-Suppressing Divine Army was located. The headquarters of the Heaven-Suppressing Divine Army was not originally here, but in the battle a few months ago, the headquarters of the Heaven-Suppressing Divine Army was defeated by the joint forces of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace and the Xie family. They suffered heavy losses and could only retreat to this place. In front of them, there were mountains that looked like divine swords. They rose from the ground and formed a barrier. It was obvious that these mountains were pulled up from the ground by a peerless expert. Between each sword-shaped mountain peak, there were huge chains that connected them. On the chains and the mountain peaks, there were dense inscriptions. There were a few huge arrow towers on the peak of each mountain, and there were powerhouses guarding the towers. This kind of arrow tower was not an ordinary one. It needed a raw stone as a foundation and was activated by a martial arts master. When combined with a large array, it was extremely powerful and could even kill a spiritual god realm master. The space outside the sword-shaped mountain cracked open, and 2 figures appeared. The heaven-suppressing divine army is indeed not simple. They can build such a huge project in just a few months. Lu Ming looked ahead and sighed. The heaven-suppressing divine army has been fighting against the Xie family for tens of thousands of years. They must have their own reasons. Xiao Wan said. Who is it? At this moment, an explosive shout came from the sword-shaped mountain peak. Then the air was torn apart. A few figures appeared in front of Xiao Wan and Lu Ming, exuding a powerful aura. Paragon. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. The 3 figures that appeared were all supremes, and their powerful auras locked onto Lu Ming and Xiao Wan. You are the chaotic heaven's divine warrior, Xiao Wan. The 3 men's expressions changed drastically upon seeing Xieluan, and they cried out in alarm. I have something to discuss with the 100 Battles Martial Emperor. Please inform him. Xiao Wan said. Yes, please wait a moment. In the face of an overlord like Xiao Wan, the supreme martial artists did not dare to show the slightest neglect. They quickly took out their voice transmission jade talismans and sent out a message. Buzz, buzz, buzz. In the time it took to brew a cup of tea, a few beams of light shot out from the depths of the sword-shaped mountain peak and appeared in front of Lu Ming and the others. Their auras were vast and unpredictable. They were all emperors. The person in the lead had an even more vast and powerful aura, far stronger than an ordinary martial emperor. It was the Baijian martial emperor that Lu Ming had met before. Ha, brother Xie, what brings you here? The warring martial emperor laughed and looked at Xiao Wan. Then, he shifted his gaze away from Xiao Wan and looked at Lu Ming. Then, his face changed and he said, Lu Ming? His words shocked the other members of the heaven-suppressing divine army. The young man in front of him was Lu Ming. Now, Lu Ming's reputation was like the sun in the sky. At such a young age, he was able to kill an emperor and battle a peak level 2 martial royal realm expert. Such a prodigy had never appeared in the divine wilderness continent since ancient times. Lu Ming's current combat strength was already at the peak of the divine wilderness continent. He was the overlord of a region. How could the people of the heaven-suppressing divine army not be shocked? Junior Lu Ming greets the 100 Battles Martial Emperor. Lu Ming cupped his fists slightly. You're welcome, you're welcome. Little brother Lu, you're welcome. The Battle Martial Emperor quickly waved his hand and continued, It's rare for little brother Lu and brother Xie to come here today. It's really an honor. Come, please come in. Lu Ming and Xiao Wan nodded and followed the warring martial emperor and the others into the sword-shaped mountain. So many experts. As soon as they entered the sword-shaped mountain peak, they saw that it was a mountain with rich spiritual qi and all kinds of buildings. In the vast mountains, Lu Ming could sense powerful auras. They were all experts. The heaven-suppressing divine legion and some of their allies gathered together, so naturally, there were many experts. Furthermore, there were many soldiers in iron armor patrolling everywhere. The military was in high spirits. However, Lu Ming could see one thing in the strong and prosperous army. It was the low morale. Yes, their morale was low. Not long ago, the heaven-suppressing divine army had suffered a crushing defeat. Even a few emperors had fallen. Their morale was naturally not very good. Everyone came to a large hall and sat down in their respective positions. Soon, more people came to the hall, all high-level figures of the heaven-suppressing divine army, at least supreme figures. There were even 9 emperors. The heaven-suppressing divine army itself did not have that many emperors. That was because some of the overlord forces had formed an alliance with the heaven-suppressing divine army. With the current situation in the divine wilderness, they would naturally gather together. I didn't expect that brother Lu and brother Xie would come here today. Come, let me toast to you too. The 100 Battles Martial Emperor raised his wine cup and drank it in one gulp. He was quite forthright. Lu Ming and Xiao Wan also took a sip symbolically. The warring martial emperor drank a cup of wine with a smile on his face. He then turned to Lu Ming and Xiao Wan and said, If I'm not wrong, the two of you are here today for the holy city's matter that will happen in 7 days, right? Not bad. Lu Ming said. The warring martial emperor went straight to the point, and Lu Ming also spoke frankly. Oh, I wonder what's the purpose of you two coming to the heaven-suppressing divine legion? The battle martial emperor asked. Our purpose is simple. We invite the heaven-suppressing divine legion to fight against the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace and the Xie family in the sacred city 7 days later. We will decide the winner in one battle. Lu Ming spoke in a sonorous and powerful voice. What? Hearing this, everyone in the heaven-suppressing divine army changed their expressions. The hall suddenly became silent. After a long while, someone finally spoke. Fight against the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace and the Xie clan? It's really laughable. Even if you all join us, you're still far from being the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Xie family's match. You'll only be courting death if you go. An emperor in armor sneered. If we don't fight with them, when the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace and Xie clan form an alliance, they will attack the heaven-suppressing divine army and northern plains. At that time, we will still die. We will only be able to survive for a few more days. Lu Ming sneered in response. But 7 days later, when we go to the holy city, we will die immediately. If we delay for a while longer, there might be a chance for us to turn things around. The armor emperor said. The other members of the heaven-suppressing divine army did not say anything, but their eyes told Lu Ming that they had the same thoughts as the armor emperor. You're just afraid of De and the 2 masters beside him. Let us deal with De and the 2 masters. You only need to deal with the Xie family. How about it? Lu Ming said. Are you going to deal with the 3 experts? The battle martial emperor's eyes flickered with suspicion. He obviously didn't believe it. Can you deal with those 3 experts? Hee, do you think we're fools? I believe that the chaotic heavens divine warrior can deal with 1 person, but who can deal with the other 2? Lu Ming, you? The King of Armor looked at Lu Ming with disdain. Although it's rumored that you can fight a level 2 martial emperor, the opponent has an emperor spiritual weapon. Moreover, the rumors are exaggerated. Can you really fight a peak level 2 martial emperor? Or do you really have the combat strength of an emperor? The armored martial emperor said with a cold smile. The others, including the battle martial emperor, looked at Lu Ming with suspicion. Chapter 1327. 1327 Chapter 1327 Defeating the Emperor in 3 moves. It was rumored that Lu Ming's combat strength was unparalleled and he could fight against a peak level 2 martial royal realm expert. But in their hearts, they didn't really believe it. This was especially so when they saw that Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the great circle of the spiritual god realm. It was simply nonsense for a great circle of the spiritual god realm to be able to fight a peak 2nd level martial emperor. They felt that the rumor was too exaggerated. Indeed, who would believe such a thing without seeing it with their own eyes? What's wrong? Do you want to try? Lu Ming looked at the armored martial emperor with a faint smile. That's right. I have the same intention. I don't believe that a mere spirit god can defeat an emperor. The armored martial emperor suddenly stood up, and an extremely strong fighting spirit emanated from his body. This was a person who loved to battle. Most people in the heaven-suppressing divine army loved to fight. All right, since that's the case, let's fight outside. Lu Ming stood up and took a step forward. He appeared in the sky outside the hall. Today, he knew it would not be so simple. If he did not show some of his skills, the heaven-suppressing divine army would not dare to bet on him. The armored martial emperor also flew out of the hall and stood in the sky, facing Lu Ming. Let's go out and take a look. The rest of the people left the hall and stood in the air. The cultivators in other places of the heaven-suppressing divine army also sensed the situation here. They rose into the air one after another and looked over. Lu Ming, make your move. Show me what you've got. The armored martial emperor's fighting spirit was getting stronger and stronger. If you want me to make the first move, sure, 3 moves. If you can take 3 of my moves and not be defeated, I admit defeat. Lu Ming extended 3 fingers and said, What? 3 moves? Lu Ming is so arrogant. Does he really have the combat strength of a peak level 2 martial royal realm expert? I don't believe it. Lu Ming's words caused a commotion and heated discussion. The warring martial emperor sneaked a glance at Xiao Wan, only to see him standing there with a calm smile on his face, as if he had already known the result. Could it be that Lu Ming is really as terrifying as the rumors say? Even now, the battle martial emperor still found it hard to believe. Good, I'll see how you're going to defeat me in 3 moves. The armored martial emperor's eyes flickered with anger. Boom! A powerful aura burst out of his body, and his genuine vitality burned like flames. His territory spread out, and his muscles swelled. In an instant, the armored martial emperor's strength was raised to the extreme. Although he did not believe that Lu Ming was as exaggerated as the rumors, there was no smoke without fire. He would not be careless when he was facing Lu Ming. Buzz! Casting the wind elemental technique, Lu Ming's figure flickered and rushed toward the armored martial emperor like a phantom. At the same time, dragon roars were heard and 9 streams of dragon energy burst out. Boom! Lu Ming threw a punch and the prison-suppressing steel's shadow appeared on his fist. So strong! The armored martial emperor's expression changed drastically when he saw Lu Ming's punch. The power of this punch shocked him and made him feel great pressure. The heaven-suppressing divine army's expressions changed drastically. The power of this punch was too terrifying. It wasn't something a spirit god expert could release. It had reached the emperor level. Block it! The armored martial emperor roared and punched out. The 2 fists met in the air. Boom! Rings of shock waves spread out in all directions. The realm covering the armored martial emperor's body trembled violently, as if it would collapse at any time. Then his face turned pale, and his body flew backward with a bang. The armored martial emperor was sent flying with 1 punch, which made the people of the heavens-suppressing divine army gasp. The armored martial emperor only managed to stabilize himself after flying for 100 miles. The second move. Let's go, Lu Ming said calmly. He took a step forward and traveled 100 miles in an instant. At the same time, the third bloodline appeared above his head. A wave of energy surged into Lu Ming's body and his strength increased again. Boom! The second punch was thrown. Explosive army-shattering fist. The armored martial emperor roared, and his hair stood up. He exerted all his combat strength and punched out. The two of them exchanged a second punch. But this time, the armored martial emperor was even more miserable. His domain was instantly destroyed, and his body and arms made cracking sounds. His body flew far away, and blood spurted out of his mouth. The armored martial emperor was severely injured by the second move. Do you want another round? Lu Ming's indifferent voice was heard. Again. The armored martial emperor roared. He was an emperor. He would not allow himself to be unable to withstand 3 moves from Lu Ming. He had to survive 3 moves. Boom! The armored martial emperor's body swelled up. At the same time, a huge shield appeared in his hand. His territory covered the shield, giving it an indestructible feeling. This move, he took a defensive stance. The third move. Let's go! Lu Ming shouted. He stepped into the air and threw his third punch. Lu Ming did not use the prison-suppressing heavenly art for this punch. Instead, he used a martial technique of intent. The fusion of 5 martial techniques of intent. Right now, the fusion of 5 martial arts techniques had a might that surpassed the prison-suppressing heaven technique. The main thing was that with the upgrade of the prison-suppressing steel's bloodline, the level of the prison-suppressing heavenly technique had long surpassed the low-grade divine-level martial arts technique. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, he could not unleash the full power of the prison-suppressing heavenly technique. When Lu Ming's cultivation level broke through to the martial royal realm and his essential core was strong, the power of the prison-suppressing heaven technique would naturally increase. Clang! The punch hit the armored martial emperor's shield. The shield was covered with a realm, but under this punch, the realm collapsed instantly like a blister. The shield let out a violent boom, forming a sound wave that spread out, tearing the space apart. Then, a shocking scene appeared. The shield was changing its shape. The spot where Lu Ming's fist landed on the shield caved in. The armored martial emperor's expression changed drastically in an instant. Bang! The armored martial emperor couldn't hold the shield at all, and the heavy shield hit him like a mountain. Pili-pala! A series of bone-breaking sounds came from the armored martial emperor's body. His body flew far away and fell on the ground. He spat out a mouthful of blood and couldn't move for a while. The armored martial emperor had been defeated. He had been completely defeated. Facing Lu Ming, he was suppressed and had almost no power to resist. Gulp. Many people swallowed their saliva and looked at Lu Ming with eyes full of horror. They no longer had any doubts. Lu Ming's combat strength completely overpowered an ordinary martial emperor. It would not be too difficult for him to kill an armored martial emperor. Perhaps the rumors were not exaggerated and were true. The people of the heaven-suppressing divine army changed their minds. Amazing, amazing! Little brother Lu is really unparalleled and the #1 in history. The battle martial emperor strode out with a look of admiration on his face. But then, the Baijian martial emperor changed his tone and said, "However, I still want to learn from you. It's not that I doubt Brother Lu, but I have to be responsible for all the members of the heaven-suppressing divine legion." The warring martial emperor stood in front of Lu Ming. A powerful aura rose from his body, which was several times stronger than that of the armored martial emperor. He was right. For the sake of the heaven-suppressing divine legion, he had to know Lu Ming's combat strength clearly. Make your move. Lu Ming's gaze shifted to the warring martial emperor. Chapter 1328. 1328 Chapter 1328 Unparalleled Combat Strength. Fight. Without saying anything else, Baijian martial emperor took a big step forward, and an invincible fighting will burst out of his body. With a wave of his hand, the sky and earth collapsed. His power was much stronger than that of the armored martial emperor. The combat strength of a Level 2 martial royal realm expert far exceeded that of a Level 1 martial royal realm expert. Lu Ming did not dare to be careless. He fused the 5 concepts and threw a punch. Boom! When the 2 fists collided, Lu Ming felt an immense force surge towards him. He could not help but be pushed back. The qi and blood in his body churned, and he felt a sharp pain in his fist. Thump! Thump! The warring martial emperor stomped on the ground and continued to charge toward Lu Ming like an invincible god of war. The 100 Battles Martial Emperor was also known as the 100 Battles Martial Emperor. He had fought countless battles and had rich combat experience. His moves were simple, but they were extremely powerful. He could kill with one strike. Roar! Lu Ming burst out the 9 Dragons bloodline and performed the bloodline fusion to fight against the warring martial emperor. Boom! 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 The 2 of them fought fiercely, from the ground to the sky, from the sky to the ground, and even to the other dimension. Lu Ming was at a complete disadvantage. He was no match for the warring martial emperor. Although the Baijian martial emperor's cultivation had not reached the peak of the 2nd level martial emperor realm, he was still at the middle stage. When Lu Ming used the Chaos Will, he could fight with a peak 2nd level martial emperor if he used his full strength. However, when he did not use the Chaos Will, his combat strength was not as good as a Baijian martial emperor. In the blink of an eye, the 2 had exchanged dozens of moves. Lu Ming, is this your full combat strength? If that's the case, how can my heaven-suppressing divine army fight with you against the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace and the Xie family? The Battle Martial Emperor's voice rang out. The Emperor Sky Divine Palace and the Xie clan had formed an alliance, so their next target would definitely be the heaven-suppressing divine army or Northern Plains. How could the Battle Martial Emperor not know this? However, if he wanted to fight with Lu Ming and the rest, the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace and the Xie family, he had to see hope. Lu Ming was the hope. If Lu Ming was really as powerful as the rumors said, what was the harm in making a bet? If you want to see my full battle strength, there's no hurry. You can't defeat me now. Lu Ming let out a long roar and kept stepping out with his 9 dragon claws. The power of the 5 martial arts techniques of creation was unleashed to the extreme, and there were even signs of a breakthrough. Yes, Lu Ming's 5 types of martial arts techniques were already at the peak of the 4th level. He was only a step away from the 5th level. A battle-hardened martial emperor was a good training partner. After the battle with a battle-hardened martial emperor, Lu Ming's 5 types of martial arts techniques seemed to show signs of a breakthrough. Then I'll see how long you can hide it for. The warring martial emperor shouted coldly as a long spear appeared in his hand. The spear pierced through the air with even more astonishing power. An ordinary 1st-level martial emperor would probably be killed in 2 moves. The 2 of them crossed paths and exchanged dozens of moves in the blink of an eye. Clang! All of a sudden, one of the 9 dragons' claws grabbed the spear's tip, producing a clanging sound. The 9 dragons retreated, but the battlefield's martial emperor's burly figure also trembled and retreated a few steps. You've made a breakthrough in your martial technique? The battle martial emperor's voice was filled with disbelief. Haha, thank you, martial emperor, for helping me make another breakthrough in my martial technique. Lu Ming laughed heartily, feeling extremely carefree. The others were dumbfounded. During the battle between Lu Ming and the warring martial emperor, he had a breakthrough in his martial arts technique. This talent was too abnormal, right? It's just a martial technique that has broken through to a new level. Its power is limited. The battle martial emperor's voice was heard, and he continued to charge at Lu Ming. Is that so? Lu Ming smiled faintly and stretched out his dragon claw. Clang! After another exchange of blows with the warring martial emperor, Lu Ming retreated, but the latter also retreated, much more than before. How is that possible? How can its power increase so much? The battle martial emperor was in disbelief. Just now, Lu Ming was completely suppressed by the 100 battle martial emperor. He had to dodge most of the attacks and did not face them head-on. However, Lu Ming's martial technique had only been upgraded by 1 level. How could its power increase so much? Of course, he did not know that Lu Ming had not improved 1 martial arts technique but 5. Lu Ming had combined the 5 martial arts techniques. Therefore, when he broke through, he would break through with all 5 martial arts techniques at the same time. Naturally, his power would increase. He wasn't a match at all earlier, but now, he could barely hold his ground. "Thanks for your help, Martial Emperor. It's time to end this battle," Lu Ming said. As soon as he finished speaking, a chaotic aura emanated from the 9 dragons. Chaos intent. Boom! The 9 dragons used the prison-suppressing heavenly art and swiped out with their claws, which were surrounded by chaos intent. 100 Battle God Fist. The warring martial emperor put away his spear and performed his strongest unique skill. In an instant, the Baijian martial emperor punched out 100 times. Each punch contained a monstrous combat power that could penetrate the earth and destroy mountains and rivers. 100 dazzling fist forces gathered in the air and merged into 1 fist force. Its power increased sharply. Boom! The fist force collided with the dragon claws of the 9 dragons. However, as soon as they came into contact, the battle martial emperor's fist force was instantly crushed and exploded like a firework. The dragon claw didn't stop, crushing the void. As if struck by lightning, Baijian martial emperor vomited blood and was sent flying thousands of miles away, leaving a long dark space tunnel in the space. He looked at Lu Ming in shock and then spat out another mouthful of blood. The others were not any better. Dumbfounded. The 100 battles martial emperor had been defeated. Was this Lu Ming's true strength? He was so powerful that he had injured 100 battles martial emperor with 1 move. With such combat strength, he could really fight with a peak level 2 martial royal realm expert. The rumors were not exaggerated at all. "Martial Emperor, do you want to continue?" Lu Ming's voice came out of the 9 dragons' mouths. "No need." The battle martial emperor sighed and shook his head. "Your combat strength is definitely comparable to the peak of the level 2 martial royal realm. If we continue fighting, I won't be your match. Why are you embarrassing yourself?" After saying that, the aura of the 100 battles martial emperor was retracted. The 9 dragons' bodies shrank, and Lu Ming returned to his original form. "Good, good, good." Suddenly, an old voice rang out, saying "good" 3 times. In the distant sky, a hunched old man stepped through the air. The old man was very old. The white hair on his head was almost all gone. His skin was shriveled, and his face was full of wrinkles. However, all the members of the heaven-suppressing divine army, including the battle martial emperor, hurriedly saluted the old man when they saw him. "Greetings, General." "General." Lu Ming's eyes flickered as he sized up the old man with a hint of solemnness in his eyes. Although this old man looked very old, Lu Ming did not dare to underestimate him. That was because Lu Ming could sense a terrifying aura in the old man's body. Peak level 2 martial royal realm. The old man was actually a peak level 2 martial royal realm expert. "I've long heard that there's an old general in the heaven-suppressing divine army who has unparalleled battle strength. I've never seen him before. Today, I finally see him." Xie Luan walked out, a smile on his face. "I pay my respects to the chaotic Sky Emperor." The old general saluted the chaotic Sky Emperor. Chapter 1329. 1329 Chapter 1329 Sneaking into Holy City. Lu Ming sighed in his heart. The heaven-suppressing divine legion was indeed not simple. There was such a powerful person hiding in the dark. He had not appeared in the previous conquests. If even the heaven-suppressing divine army was like this, how could the Xie family, which had a deeper foundation, not have any hidden cards? The old general of the heaven-suppressing divine army saluted Xie Luan first, then turned to Lu Ming with a warm smile. It's true that every generation has its own talents. This old man is impressed by little brother Lu's strength. "You're too kind, old general." Lu Ming cupped his fists. "Chaotic Sky Emperor, little brother Lu, I can give you a definite answer. The heaven-suppressing divine army will definitely participate in the battle 7 days later," the old general said. Lu Ming and Xiao Wan were overjoyed. The old general's words meant that he had agreed to join forces with them 7 days later and head to the sacred city to fight the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Xie clan. The battle marshal emperor and the other experts of the heaven-suppressing divine army were surprised, but they didn't say anything. They also understood that the heaven-suppressing divine army could not stay out of this battle. If Northern Plains were defeated, heaven-suppressing divine army would not be able to escape the fate of being destroyed. This alliance with Northern Plains was their only chance. "All right, old general. Everyone will meet in 7 days. See you in 7 days. Lu Ming and Xiao Wan said their goodbyes and left. The goal of this trip could be considered to be a complete success. After returning to the 100 Beasts tribe, Lu Ming continued to cultivate in seclusion. 4 days later, there were only 3 days left before the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Xie clan formed an alliance. In a secret room, Lu Ming's glabella glowed and he stepped out of Lu Ming's body. Then, Lu Ming's main body waved his hand and the mountain and river diagram flew to his clone, which then kept it. Then, the main body closed his eyes, while the second body smiled. "Let's go to the holy city first." The second body smiled, took a step forward, and disappeared. After a while, the second body had already appeared hundreds of millions of li away from the 100 Beasts tribe. Lu Ming's plan was to let the second clone enter the holy city first to inquire about the 9 Sons Supreme, Bai Shijin, and the others. Lu Ming's mind sank into the clone. The clone was just like his main body. "Let's change our appearance first." Lu Ming took out a long gray robe and put it on. At the same time, his figure and face began to change. Finally, he turned into a young man with a sallow face. His appearance was very ordinary, the kind of appearance and body that would not be easily discovered in a crowd. Then, runes appeared on Lu Ming's body. He began to restrain his aura until he was only a 7th-rank alchemist. Then he took a step forward, and space cracked open. Lu Ming disappeared from the place. He had refined his second body and reached the level of a 9th-grade emperor. His speed was extremely fast. In less than half a day, the holy city appeared in front of him. There were experts guarding the city gates of the holy city. The checks were extremely strict. Everyone who entered had to go through a strict examination. However, Lu Ming had inherited the legacy of the mysterious Sky Saint and was proficient in the Tao of inscriptions. He had concealed himself with inscriptions and arrays, and even an emperor would not be able to detect him. Lu Ming entered the holy city easily. There are so many people. Walking on the streets of the holy city, Lu Ming realized that there were more people coming and going in the holy city than when he was in the past. It was normal to think about it. There were still a few days left before the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace and the Xie clan would hold the alliance ceremony. Right now, the Xie clan and their allies had all entered the sacred city. Also, many of the powers that the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace belonged to had also come to the sacred city. Naturally, the sacred city would be very lively. This evening, the Xie families Xie Yan, Xie Zhen, and the other princes will be hosting a banquet at the Drunken Immortal Court to welcome the Southern Nether's peerless genius, Dark Child. At that time, all young geniuses are welcome to attend. Lu Ming had just entered the holy city when he heard this piece of news. Dark Child. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with a cold glint. In the end, only Dark Child, the unscrupulous monk, and the moonless female bodhisattva had returned from the trip to the divine ruins. However, Long Chen had not returned, and no one knew what had happened. Lu Ming really wanted to know. Then the Drunken Immortal Garden will definitely be very lively this evening. We can't miss such a grand scene. Indeed. Back then, 12 top geniuses went to the Divine Ruins continent, but only 3 returned. 2 of them were from the Western Desert, and the western deserts, Saint Monk has always stayed out of it. In other words, Darkchild is the top genius now. That's right. In the future, Darkchild is destined to roam the divine wilderness. That's why the prince of the Xie family specially invited Darkchild to a banquet to curry favor with him. Many people were discussing, and Lu Ming had heard a lot of news. Lu Ming's lips curled into a mocking smile, and he strolled casually on the streets. Very soon, it was evening, and Lu Ming headed towards the Drunken Immortal Garden. The Drunken Immortal Court was quite famous in the sacred city. The environment inside was elegant, and there was a place for experts to spar, so it became a gathering place for some martial arts experts. At the entrance of the Drunken Immortal Court, there were many young and outstanding people walking in and out. At the main entrance, there were people checking, but they usually only checked casually before letting people in. They entered the Drunken Immortal Court and came to an empty space. The empty space was filled with tables and chairs, and many people had already taken their seats. Lu Ming swept his gaze and saw many familiar faces. Many of them were second- and third-class geniuses from the Overlord forces. Lu Ming saw more familiar figures on the platform at the top. Xie Yan, Xie Zhen, and the other princes of the Xie family, as well as Wu Qinkong, the heaven's favorite of the Heavenly Martial Sword sect. Previously, Lu Ming knew that the Heavenly Martial Sword sect had already submitted to the Ditian Divine Palace. Therefore, Wu Qinkong and the others had also become members of the Ditian Divine Palace. Darkchild is here, someone said. In the distance, a black-robed young man with his hands behind his back was walking in the air. He exuded a domineering aura that showed that he was the only one in the world. This person was Darkchild. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Xie Yan, Xie Zhen, Wu Qinkong, and the others quickly flew into the sky to welcome Darkchild. It's my honor that Brother Ming is willing to come. Xie Yan laughed heartily. Not bad, not bad. Brother Ming's arrival is truly an honor. Xie Zhen said, unwilling to be outdone. Following that, the other heaven's favorites started to flatter him. Now, among the younger generation of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace, including the Xie family, Ming Zi was the #1 and the only giant-level Heaven's Pride expert. His future achievements would be limitless, so they naturally had to firmly establish a relationship with him. And everyone is too polite. Darkchild put his hands behind his back and spoke indifferently, looking like he was above everyone. Xie Zhen and the others didn't mind. They welcomed Darkchild to the platform and continued to flatter him. Ming Zi pursed his lips and pretended to be calm, but he was actually enjoying it. He enjoyed this feeling very much. He was intoxicated by the feeling of being surrounded by a myriad of stars. In the past, he had been the center of attention, a giant-level prodigy of the divine wilderness continent, standing at the peak. But after all, there were more than 10 people who could compete with him. His presence had undoubtedly weakened a lot. But now, it was different. Everything was centered around him, and he was enjoying it too much. Chapter 1330. 1330 Xie Zhen's Dirty Methods. Right now, in the entire divine wilderness, the Western Desert does not care about worldly affairs. Among the younger generation, other than Lu Ming, Brother Ming is the most powerful. A voice suddenly rang out among the compliments. The scene suddenly became quiet. Lu Ming. It was as if Lu Ming's name had a magical power that made everyone shut up. Everyone looked at each other, but no one spoke. Lu Ming's name was like a huge mountain, pressing down on everyone's hearts. He was of the same generation as them, but with his current combat strength, he was able to kill an emperor. He was able to fight against a peak level 2 martial royal realm expert. He was already standing at the peak of the divine wilderness continent, looking down on the world. Among his peers, no one could compare to Lu Ming. The so-called geniuses here were far too inferior when compared to Lu Ming. The difference was too great. Darkchild's face also darkened, a cold light flashing in his eyes. The young man who had just spoken turned pale and broke out in a cold sweat. He knew that he had said the wrong thing. He had wanted to flatter Ming Zi, but he subconsciously added Lu Ming's name. "Brother Ming, please forgive me. I didn't mean to." The young man quickly apologized and stuttered. It would have been better if he didn't explain. The moment he did, Dark Child's face turned even gloomier. "What an idiot, get lost." Xiezhen berated, and the young man hurriedly took his leave. Lu Ming may be strong, but he doesn't know how to judge the situation. He won't live for long. He'll die eventually. When that time comes, who in the world can compete with Brother Ming? Xiezhen continued. Hearing this, Dark Child's face looked a little better. That's right. Lu Ming won't be able to live for long. He still wants to go against the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace and the Xie clan. He's simply courting death. Even if such a brainless person has some combat strength temporarily, he's still a brainless boar. In my opinion, he's far inferior to Brother Dark Child. The others immediately followed suit and started to flatter him. Dark Child's face revealed a smile again. "You're right. Lu Ming's talent is average. It's just that he's lucky, so his combat power is slightly stronger than mine. However, because of this, he's arrogant and condescending. Back in the Divine Ruins continent, he even dared to offend the pride of the Yuan continent's big sect, the Tianshan sect. Such a brainless person will definitely have limited achievements. Even if he doesn't die in the Divine Wilderness continent, he will be killed by the experts of the Tianshan sect." Dark Child said disdainfully. "Brother Dark Child is right. Brother Ming is right." The others were full of compliments. "Brother Ming, how about I invite you to watch a good show?" Xiezhen said with a smile. "Oh, what good show?" Dark Child revealed an interested expression. "Brother Ming, please wait." Xiezhen laughed, and then his voice spread far and wide. "Bring the person up." "Yes." Someone replied in the distance. Not long after, a group of Imperial Dragon Guards led a dozen people over. Sun Lin Tai Xing. In the crowd, Lu Ming's eyes gleamed coldly. The dozen or so people who were brought here were actually the law enforcement officers that Lu Ming had met when he joined the law enforcement army in the Holy City. Tai Xing, the black gorilla man, Sun Lin, the middle-aged man who had been transferred to the law enforcement army from the Imperial Dragon Guard with him by Xiezhen. At this moment, Tai Xing and the others were in a sorry state. Their breathing was shallow and their faces were pale. It was obvious that they had suffered heavy injuries. Very quickly, Tai Xing and the rest were brought to Xiezhen and the others. "Who are they?" Ming Zi was slightly stunned. He didn't understand why Xiezhen had brought more than a dozen burly men here. "Brother Ming, these people are on very good terms with Lu Ming. They were his subordinates in the past." Xiezhen said. "Xiezhen, you're despicable and shameless. You actually want us to slander the commander. You're dreaming." Tai Xing roared. "Shut up, what's slander?" Xiezhen berated. His eyes were cold as he said, "I'll give you one more chance. Tell me, did Lu Ming use despicable means to kill others to cultivate his martial arts? Also, did he specifically harm young girls and take their yin to supplement yang? That's why his cultivation improved so quickly. You're his subordinates, so you should be very clear about it. Let me remind you before you speak, you'd better think carefully. Don't forget the fate of your companions." Xiezhen said coldly as he scanned Tai Xing's body with his cold eyes. The expressions of Tai Xing and the others were ugly, and a few of them looked terrified. "Bullshit. Don't even think about slandering the commander. The commander is a man of indomitable spirit. Why would he do such a thing?" Tai Xing roared. "That's right. The commander would never do such a thing. Don't even think about using us to ruin the commander's reputation. You've killed so many of our brothers. The commander will definitely come back to avenge us." Someone else also shouted. In the crowd, Lu Ming's gaze turned colder. He roughly knew what was going on. Back then, Lu Ming was on good terms with the law enforcement army. It was obvious that Xiezhen had taken down the law enforcement army and wanted to force them to slander Lu Ming, saying that Lu Ming had done evil things like gathering yin to supplement yang. That was why his cultivation level had progressed so quickly. In that case, not only could he ruin Lu Ming's reputation, but he could also enrage Lu Ming. There would be a higher chance of Lu Ming appearing at the alliance ceremony in a few days' time, and he could then kill him. However, the law enforcement army did not obey. Furthermore, from the conversation of the crowd, the other members of the law enforcement army had already been killed by Xie Zhen. There were only a dozen or so people left. Damn it. The killing intent in Lu Ming's heart was as cold as a knife. Xie Zhen's expression was extremely gloomy as he berated, "I'll give you one more chance. Tell me or not. If you don't die. Don't even think about it, I'd rather die than do such a despicable thing." Tai Xing roared. The others also glared at him angrily, as if they were not afraid of death. The law enforcement army had a low status in the imperial city and lived a miserable life. In order to survive, they had to please both sides and lived without dignity. It was Lu Ming. Lu Ming was the one who made them hold their heads high and puffed out their chests. After Lu Ming joined the law enforcement army, they could finally hold their heads up high and enforce the law on behalf of the Sage Emperor. They returned to the time 30,000 years ago when the law enforcement army dominated the world. Therefore, they were very grateful to Lu Ming. They could not slander Lu Ming. "Xie Zhen, as a prince, you did such a dirty thing. You're really a disgrace to the imperial family and the Xie family." Tai Xing continued to shout. "Shut up. You're looking for death." Xie Zhen was furious. A saber appeared in his hand and he slashed at Tai Xing's neck. He had brought Tai Xing and the others over to curry favor with Darkchild, but he had not expected them to bite him back and damage his reputation. He wanted nothing more than to cut them into pieces. The blade light was cold and as fast as lightning as it slashed towards Tai Xing. At this moment, Tai Xing's cultivation was sealed and his breathing was shallow. It was impossible for him to dodge. In a moment, Tai Xing's blood was about to splatter and he would die under Xie Zhen's saber. Whoosh! At that moment, a wine cup flew out from the crowd and hit Xie Zhen's saber. Clang! An inscription flashed on the wine cup, and it collided with the saber. Buzz! The battle saber trembled and hummed as it flew far away. Xie Zhen's expression changed drastically as he retreated 7 or 8 steps and fell on his butt. Chapter 1331. 1331 Chapter 1331 Want to be abused again? Who is it? Xie Yan berated. At this moment, Xie Zhen also reacted. His face was flushed red as he crawled up from the ground. His eyes flickered with a surging killing intent as he looked around and roared, "Who is it? Who is it? If you dare to attack me, come out and face your death." Under everyone's watchful eyes, Xie Zhen's battle blade was hit by a wine cup and he fell to the ground. This was undoubtedly an embarrassing matter, and it made Xie Zhen's killing intent reach its peak. Hee hee. A chuckle came from the crowd, and a young man with a sallow face stepped out. This young man was Lu Ming. Even though he did not have a particularly deep relationship with Tai Xing and the others, they had worked together for a while and had gotten along for a period of time. Moreover, Tai Xing and the others were implicated because of him. How could Lu Ming sit by and do nothing? Lu Ming was the one who threw the wineglass just now. You are a prince, yet you are doing such a despicable thing. You are a despicable man. The ancient Saint dynasty only has them Slaviers to blame for what they have done. Lu Ming sneered and walked towards Xie Zhen. How audacious! Impudent! You're looking for death. Some of the Xie family's princes present berated him and stared at Lu Ming with cold eyes. Brat, you dare to interfere in my business? Since you're here today, don't leave. Xie Zhen's voice was cold. He waved his hand and said, attack and cripple his cultivation. Yes. 7 or 8 Imperial Dragon Guards flew out, unsheathing all kinds of weapons as they charged at Lu Ming. However, the cultivation of these Imperial Dragon Guards was only at the 9th level of the Spirit Embryo realm. They were not worth mentioning in Lu Ming's eyes. Buzz! Inscriptions suddenly glowed on the ground, and a great formation appeared. In the formation, More than a dozen long sticks condensed and smashed toward the Imperial Dragon Guards. Bang! Ah! Instantly, the sounds of whipping and screams of pain joined together. The Imperial Dragon Guards didn't have the slightest strength to fight back under the long staff strikes. In the blink of an eye, they were all whipped to the ground. Each of them had been hit more than a dozen times, their skin and flesh split open. It was a terrible sight. Phew! Xiezhen's face turned pale as he retreated. His cultivation was only at the 9th level of the Spirit Embryo realm, not much stronger than those Imperial Dragon Guards. Lu Ming could easily beat up 7 to 8 Imperial Dragon Guards, so he was naturally not a match for him. So you're an inscription master. Xie Yan coldly snorted, a powerful aura exuding from his body. Xie Yan was a second-grade heaven's favorite. His cultivation had long broken through to the spiritual god realm, and his combat strength was powerful, much stronger than Xiezhen's. 10th Prince, this person is extremely daring. Since he dares to attack us here, I think he must have been sent by Lu Ming. Let me kill him. A voice rang out from behind Xie Yan. A young figure stepped out and appeared in front of Xie Yan. Wu Qingkong. He was Wu Qingkong, the number 1 genius of the Heavenly Sword faction. Wu Qingkong is going to attack. This man is dead. In recent years, Wu Qingkong's cultivation has become more and more terrifying. This man is dead for sure. This person is also stupid. He dared to make a move in such an occasion. It would be strange if he didn't die. The scene was filled with discussions. Now, there were only a few big shots left in the Divine Wilderness continent. Wu Qingkong was one of the strongest people below the big shots. His status was naturally not ordinary, second only to Mingzi. With Brother Wu here, I can rest assured, Xie Yan said as he took 2 steps back. Brat, are you going to surrender or wait for me to make a move? Wu Qingkong's eyes were as sharp as 2 swords. Wu Qingkong, back then, you were repeatedly abused by Lu Ming. Instead of hiding and cultivating, you dared to come out and bark. Aren't you afraid of being abused again? Lu Ming curled his lips and said sarcastically. Shut up, you're looking for death. Wu Qingkong was furious. Back then, he had been ruthlessly abused by Lu Ming time and time again. That was his dark history and a disgrace to him. He would be furious whenever anyone mentioned it in front of him. I'll cut off your 4 limbs and make you wish you were dead. Wu Qingkong bellowed. He unsheathed his sword and slashed at Lu Ming with terrifying sword chi. So strong. 3rd level of the spiritual god realm. This is the 3rd level of the spiritual god realm. Wu Qingkong has broken through to the 3rd level of the spiritual god realm. Wu Qingkong's attack caused a wave of exclamations. At the 3rd level of the spiritual god realm, apart from those big shots and geniuses, who else could compete with him? In their hearts, Lu Ming was dead for sure. After all, Lu Ming did not look very old. He was very young and belonged to the younger generation. But he had never seen him before, so he was obviously not famous. How powerful could an unknown young man be to be able to fight with Wu Qingkong? Buzz! An inscription appeared in front of Lu Ming once again. A formation emerged. It was exactly the same as the one that had brutally tortured the Imperial Dragon Guards earlier. More than a dozen long sticks appeared and struck toward Wu Qingkong. Buzz! The sword chi whistled through the air, and with a single slash, the dozen or so staves were all cut in half. The sword chi did not stop and continued to slash at Lu Ming. Bang! 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 Lu Ming took a few steps and dense runes appeared on the ground. Another array appeared. It was the same as the previous one with more than 10 long rods. However, as the sword chi swept past, the dozen or so long staves were cut into 2 again. But immediately, another formation appeared, and the long stick formed again. He's using such a formation against Wu Qingkong. He's dead for sure. This is all this person has. He dares to be so arrogant here. He really doesn't know what's good for him. Someone sneered in disdain. Whoosh! Whoosh! The sword chi whistled, and the long sticks were cut in half. Let's end this. Wu Qingkong roared and shook his sword. The sword radiance flashed and dozens of sword qi were sent toward Lu Ming. Each beam of sword qi was extremely powerful. That kid is dead for sure, everyone thought. However, Lu Ming's expression was calm, as if he did not see the sword aura. He took another light step. Buzz, buzz, whoosh. This time, more than a dozen formations appeared on the ground. All of them were identical and formed a long stick. In total, hundreds of long staffs were thrown at Wu Qingkong. So what if there are many? Break. Wu Qingkong shouted, and his sword qi became stronger. However, the next moment, his expression changed drastically. Originally, those long sticks were no different from dead branches in his eyes. He could easily cut them with his sword. But this time, when the sword qi hit the long sticks, there were clanking sounds and sparks, but the long sticks were intact. On the contrary, the sword qi that he had released was destroyed by the long stick. Break! Wu Qingkong's expression changed. He raised his cultivation to the extreme and slashed out with his sword. Clang, clang, clang! However, his sword qi was completely useless against those long staffs. As the long staff struck down, his sword qi dispersed. How did this happen? Wu Qingkong panicked. Chapter 1332. 1332 Searching Your Soul. Wu Qingkong panicked and was shocked. Without any hesitation, Wu Qingkong used the bloodline fusion and turned into a sword. He slashed at the long sticks. Clang, clang! The staff hit Wu Qingkong's sword, which shook violently. In a few seconds, the sword collapsed and turned back into a human. No! Wu Qingkong shouted in fear. He kept spitting out blood and tried to escape. However, the long staff surrounded him from all directions, sealing off all his escape routes. A few hundred sticks were thrown at Wu Qingkong. Wu Qingkong was completely drowned in the shadows of the sticks. Ah! Ah! A shrill scream reverberated throughout the drunken immortal garden. Everyone who was watching the battle looked at each other. How did this happen? This result was completely different from what they had expected. Wu Qingkong was the strongest heaven's favorite below the big shot heaven's favorites. His cultivation had even reached the third level of the spiritual god realm. How many people in the younger generation of the divine wilderness continent could be his match? Furthermore, it was Lu Ming, a kid that she did not know at all. It was a matter of killing him in one move. However, the result was completely beyond everyone's expectations. Lu Ming had cast the same array. But wasn't the formation weak at the beginning? It couldn't stop Wu Qingkong at all. Why did it suddenly become so powerful? The staff became so powerful that even Wu Qingkong couldn't stop it. The shrill screams were still echoing. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, the hundreds of sticks disappeared, revealing Wu Qingkong's figure. Tragic. It was really too tragic. Everyone who saw Wu Qingkong's figure could not help but think of the word tragic. Wu Qingkong was lying on the ground like a dead dog. He had been hit so many times that his clothes were in tatters. His body was covered with rod marks. His face was like a pig's head, his nose was broken, and his teeth were all gone. If no one had said that it was Wu Qingkong, no one would have recognized him. Most importantly, Wu Qingkong's aura was extremely weak. His cultivation had been crippled. The attack had destroyed Wu Qingkong's cultivation. He was now a cripple. Many people gasped and shivered. In particular, some second and third grade geniuses could not help but step back. They looked at Lu Ming with grave expressions. Who was this person? Where did he come from? How could he be so strong? Furthermore, this person cultivated in the Tao of inscription. In the divine wilderness continent, there were countless geniuses in the Tao of inscription. There was no one who could defeat Wu Qingkong. They racked their brains but couldn't figure out who this person was. Could this person be Lu Ming? He had never heard of Lu Ming having such deep attainments in the Tao of inscription. Who are you? Dark Child's gaze was sinister as he stared at Lu Ming, trying to figure out something from Lu Ming's expression. However, he was disappointed. Lu Ming's expression was very calm and he could not figure out anything at all. Who am I? You don't have the right to know. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Hee, how arrogant. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you defeated Wu Qingkong. I can kill him with a snap of my fingers. Dark Child glanced at Wu Qingkong and smiled disdainfully. Bang! Then, Dark Child stepped forward, his aura rising crazily. Today was a banquet that was specially held for him, but Lu Ming had continuously attacked him, injured Xie Zhen, and crippled Wu Qingkong. This was a complete slap to his face. He could not let Lu Ming leave alive. The aura on his body was getting stronger and stronger. 3rd level spiritual god realm, 4th level spiritual god realm, peak 4th level spiritual god realm. Even at the peak of the 4th level of the spiritual god realm, he still did not stop. Boom! Dark Child's aura had reached the 5th level of the spiritual god realm. Gasps could be heard at the scene. Dark Child, as expected of a giant-level prodigy. Your cultivation has actually reached the 5th level of the spiritual god realm. Dark Child has awakened a 9th level divine rank bloodline. His combat strength is unparalleled. At the 5th level of the spiritual god realm, he should be able to kill a high-level spiritual god. This is too shocking. Dark Child's body was filled with dark chi. He smiled confidently and said, "Kid, I don't care who you are. Today, I will die without a doubt." Buzz! A pitch-black scimitar appeared in Dark Child's hand. He moved and pounced at Lu Ming, slashing at him. Lu Ming stood there, unmoving. This time, no inscriptions or formations appeared. In an instant, Dark Child's scimitar was about to slash Lu Ming's head. At this moment, Lu Ming stretched out 2 fingers and gently cut at Dark Child. Whoosh! A beam of sword aura appeared between Lu Ming's fingers. Poochie! The saber in Dark Child's hand was easily cut in half. The sword chi didn't stop and continued to cut toward Dark Child. Not good. Dark Child's expression changed drastically. He could feel the threat of death from Lu Ming's sword aura. At this moment, his heart was trembling, and even his soul was trembling. Retreat, retreat, retreat. He roared in his heart and retreated like crazy. At the same time, he used all his techniques to defend. However, he immediately fell into despair. The sword aura on Lu Ming's finger could break through anything. All of his defenses were cut open like tofu. Then, he felt a chill between his eyebrows. The next moment he fell into boundless darkness and lost consciousness. What's going on? The surrounding onlookers were baffled. At first, they saw Dark Child attacking Lu Ming. Then, they saw a sword chi burst out from Lu Ming's finger. Then they saw Dark Child retreating frantically. However, he had only retreated a few meters when his body stopped. He stood there, motionless. Many people were confused and didn't understand what had happened. But immediately, everyone's pupils enlarged. Because at that moment, a blood mark appeared on Dark Child's glabella. The blood mark quickly grew longer, and then everyone saw Dark Child's body split into 2 and 2 hollow ears. He was dead. Dark Child was dead. He had been cut in half by a sword. How was this possible? Dark Child's cultivation was at the 5th level of the spiritual god realm, and he was also a big shot's pride. With his combat strength, killing an existence at the 7th level of the spiritual god realm would be easy. How could such a prodigy be killed by Lu Ming's sword chi as easily as killing a chicken? How could Lu Ming be so powerful? Who are you? Who the hell are you? Xie Yan and Xie Zhen were so frightened that their faces turned pale and they started to roar madly. Lu Ming pursed his lips slightly and the sword aura on his fingers disappeared. This was a formation carved with his own body. With his emperor cultivation, the formation he carved was naturally terrifying. Using it against Dark Child was really overkill. Buzz! An inscription flashed beneath Lu Ming's feet. In the next moment, Lu Ming appeared in front of Xie Zhen. What do you want to do? This is the holy city, what do you want to do? Xie Zhen was so frightened that he shouted, "I'll search your soul." Lu Ming's indifferent voice was heard. He stretched out a finger and pointed at Xie Zhen's glabella. In front of Lu Ming, Xie Zhen felt as if he was being crushed by 10,000 mountains. He could not move at all. Chapter 1333. 1333 Chapter 1333 Abyss Demon Territory again. Lu Ming's finger touched the space between Xie Zhen's eyebrows. An inscription flashed and Xie Zhen's expression froze. His gaze was unfocused, as if he was in a daze. Lu Ming was using powerful means to search Xie Zhen's soul. Compared to warriors, there were some techniques of an inscriber that were more mysterious and profound. He had obtained the soul-searching technique from the mysterious Sky Saint. Lu Ming wanted to find out the whereabouts of the 9 Sons Supreme, by Shijin, and the others from Xie Zhen. Evil creature, stop. Kill. A few angry shouts were heard as a few figures crossed the sky. As soon as the voices fell, a few terrifying attacks were directed at Lu Ming. The Xie clan's experts had arrived. These people were all at the 7th level of the spiritual god realm. Lu Ming's figure did not move, but a large array suddenly appeared in the sky. The large array glowed and condensed into a few combat swords. With a slash, a few 7th level spiritual god realm experts were killed in the air. So strong. In the drunken immortal garden, many of the young geniuses trembled in their hearts. Lu Ming was too powerful. Killing a 7th level spiritual god was as easy as cutting melons and vegetables. This person shouldn't be someone from the younger generation. He must be someone from the older generation. Someone guessed. Other than Lu Ming, he could not think of anyone else in the younger generation who was so powerful. However, this person was obviously an alchemist and should not be Lu Ming. Therefore, many people guessed that he was an elder. No, I didn't. At this moment, Lu Ming frowned. He realized that in Xie Zhen's memories he did not know the whereabouts of the 9 Sons Supreme, by Shijin, and the others. Perhaps, Xie Zhen's cultivation is too low and he doesn't have the right to know about this. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. In the next moment he turned to look at Xie Yan. Xie Yan was a second-class heaven's favorite. Other than Xian Yanjuan, he was the highest-ranking person in the younger generation of the Xie family. Perhaps he knew. Under Lu Ming's gaze, Xie Yan's expression changed. Without a second thought, he soared into the sky, wanting to leave this place. However, Lu Ming waved his palm gently in the air. Dense runes suddenly appeared above Xie Yan. A large array appeared and condensed into chains that wrapped around Xie Yan. Xie Yan's cultivation was at the 2nd level of the spiritual god realm. However, no matter how much he erupted, he was completely useless against the chains. He was bound tightly. Lu Ming let go of Xie Zhen and walked toward Xie Yan. Xie Zhen's eyes were still unfocused, as if he had gone dumb. Yes, Xie Zhen was already an idiot. Earlier, when Lu Ming searched his soul, he did not control it at all. He used the most direct, violent, and brutal way to search for what Lu Ming wanted. Therefore, Xie Zhen's soul suffered an indelible injury and he was already dumbfounded. Save me, save me. When Xie Yan saw Lu Ming walking towards him, he was so frightened that he screamed madly. You're looking for death. How dare you be so impudent in the holy city? 9 generations of your family will be executed. Roars of anger could be heard from afar. More experts from the Xie family had arrived. Buzz. Buzz. Bush. At least a dozen experts rushed over, and terrifying auras rushed up like smoke. The weakest aura was at the 9th level of the spiritual god realm, and there were even perfected spiritual gods. The strongest person was surprisingly a supreme being. In an instant, more than a dozen experts appeared in the sky above the drunken immortal garden and launched attacks at Lu Ming. Lu Ming waved his hand and dense runes appeared in the sky. They swam as if they had a life of their own and many large arrays were formed. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The formation glowed, forming dozens of thick chains that wrapped around the dozen experts. After that, Lu Ming did not even look at these people. He appeared in front of Xie Yan and pointed his finger between Xie Yan's eyebrows. Soul search. Boom, boom, boom. In the sky, there were continuous rumbles. More than a dozen powerhouses joined forces, but it was impossible to break through the defense. Dozens of chains seemed to be alive, constantly waving and winding, making the dozen or so experts tired of dealing with them. Lu Ming pointed his finger at Xie Yan's glabella. After about 10 breaths, his eyes suddenly lit up. He found it. He found the whereabouts of the Supreme Master of 9 Suns and the others. In Xie Yan's memory, the 9 Suns Supreme, by Shijin, and the others were imprisoned in the Abyss Demon realm. The Abyss Demon territory again. Xian Yanqing had been imprisoned in the Abyss Demon territory, and Xie Luan had been rescued from there. It seems that I have to go to the Abyss Demon territory again. Lu Ming muttered, his finger leaving Xie Yan's glabella. Xie Yan collapsed to the ground like a pile of mud, gasping for breath. His entire body was drenched in sweat. He did not turn into an idiot like Xie Zhen. His cultivation was much stronger than Xie Zhen's, having reached the 2nd level of the spiritual god realm. His soul was stable, so the damage to his soul was not great. Whoosh! Lu Ming waved his hand and an inscription flashed on his arm. A sword aura cut through the void. The dozen or so powerhouses didn't even have time to scream before they were killed by the sword chi. Ha, let's go! Lu Ming laughed heartily. He took a step forward and his figure suddenly disappeared without a trace. In the drunken immortal garden, many young heaven's favorites looked at each other with shock in their eyes. He was too powerful. No matter what cultivation level he was at, he was killed in a single move. Even supreme martial artists were killed in the same way. A word appeared in everyone's mind. An emperor. Lu Ming was most likely an impersonator of the emperor. An emperor had infiltrated the holy city. Boom, boom. In the depths of the sacred city, a terrifying aura shot up into the sky. A few figures appeared above the drunken immortal garden. The vast pressure made all the young people tremble as if they were about to kneel down. Emperor. The people who appeared later were all emperors. The few sovereigns spread out their spiritual senses to search for Lu Ming, but they could not find any trace of him. Search the entire city, don't let off any suspicious people. An emperor ordered. Unfortunately, there was still no news of Lu Ming after half a day. And everything that happened in the drunken immortal garden had also spread throughout the sacred city. An unfamiliar young man had first crippled Wu Chengkong, then killed Darkchild. What was even more terrifying was that even a supreme being could not fight back. One of the emperors, Xie Zhen, had even become an idiot because of this person. The news shocked the sacred city. Many people knew that Northern Plains or the heaven-suppressing divine army had started to move. Everyone started to guess who this young man was. Some people guessed that it was Lu Ming, because Lu Ming was most likely to have sneaked into the holy city to save Supreme 9 Suns and the others. However, someone immediately retorted that this person cultivated the inscription Dao and could not be Lu Ming. Activate the Heaven's Secrets instrument. In the end, the higher-ups of the Xie family issued an order. The Xie family activated the Heaven's Secrets instrument. Their target was Lu Ming. In the end, they activated the Heaven's Secrets instrument and realized that Lu Ming was not in the Holy City. He was still in Northern Plains. In a secret room in the 100 Beasts tribe in the Northern Plains, the projection of the Heaven's Secrets instrument appeared above Lu Ming's head. It seems that the Heaven's Secrets device also has a weakness. It can only find my main body, but not my secondary body. Lu Ming's main body ended its cultivation. He opened his eyes and smiled. Seal. Then, Lu Ming shouted softly. 4 sealing gates appeared above his head and sealed the Heaven's Secrets instrument projection. The Heaven's Secrets instrument projection disappeared. The second divine 9-dragon cauldron moved and floated in the air, flying toward Lu Ming. Then, the third divine 9-dragon cauldron also moved. Buzz! Buzz! The divine nine-dragon cauldron broke through the air. In the blink of an eye, 3 divine nine-dragon cauldrons were suspended above Lu Ming's head. "Lu Ming, you dare? Put down the divine nine-dragon cauldron." In the distance, a few howls sounded out as a few figures broke through the air. His speed was extremely fast, and as soon as his voice fell, his figure had already appeared above the dragon vein. The head of the Dongfang family, the head of the Kong family. Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. A few supreme martial artists had come, and some of them were old acquaintances. They were the other family heads of the 6 great ancient families. Lu Ming ignored him and continued to control the 9-dragon bloodline to summon the divine 9-dragon cauldron. Being ignored by Lu Ming, the few supreme beings' faces turned ugly. "Let's attack together." The supreme martial artists looked at each other and reached a consensus. Boom, boom, boom. A few rays of dazzling light burst out and shot towards Lu Ming. The light was beautiful, but it was filled with killing intent. "Get lost." Lu Ming's eyes turned cold and he stepped into the air. Boom. A terrifying power crushed the space and surged toward the supreme beings. The attacks of the supreme martial artists were as fragile as tofu in the face of this power. 2 of the supreme martial artists' bodies even exploded and died on the spot. As for the family heads of the 3 families, they were sent flying thousands of miles and crashed into a dozen mountains. Blood spurted from their mouths and their breathing became weak. With a single strike, he had killed 2 supreme martial artists and seriously injured the other 3. Such battle prowess was extremely terrifying. In the distance, there was silence. No one dared to open their mouths. Today, all the experts of the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace had gone to the sacred city. Not even a single emperor was left behind. No one could stop Lu Ming. Is this Lu Ming's combat strength? Among the crowd, there were some young sovereigns who were on the list of top 1,000 talents in the Eastern Barren Territory. Some of them had even competed with Lu Ming. At this moment, they were full of dejection and shock when they saw the figure on the dragon vein. Back then, they were of the same generation and they were competing with each other. However, in just a few years, the gap between them and Lu Ming was already huge. They could not be compared at all. They knew that they would never be able to catch up to Lu Ming in this lifetime. Roar! The roars of the 9 dragons shook the heavens. Clang! Clang! The divine 9-dragon cauldron shook continuously. One after another, the divine 9-dragon cauldron flew toward Lu Ming. More and more divine 9-dragon cauldrons appeared above Lu Ming's head. 4, 5, 6. Quick, spread the news. Someone in 9 dragons gave the order. Whoosh! Whoosh! One after another, voice transmission jade talismans flew out. However, as soon as they arrived outside 9 dragons, a light screen rose up and blocked all the voice transmission jade talismans. A few figures were standing in the void outside 9 dragons. Among them, there was a dean of the Tianxia Academy who cultivated the Tao of inscription. There were also 7 or 8 supreme martial artists who cultivated the Tao of inscription. They had set up a wizardry barrier outside 9 dragons to specifically intercept the voice transmission jade talisman. More and more divine 9-dragon cauldrons were summoned by Lu Ming. In the end, all 9 divine cauldrons were gathered and suspended above Lu Ming's head. "I'll lend it to you for a few days. After a few days, I'll let you return to your original place," Lu Ming said softly. The 9 dragons opened their mouths and swallowed. The 9 divine 9-dragon cauldrons flew into the big mouth of the 9-dragon bloodline and disappeared. Roar! At this moment, the 9 dragon veins in 9 dragons were stirred up. Like 9 real dragons, they were about to break through the sky and soar into the sky with dragon chi. Lu Ming's expression was calm as if he had expected this. After a while, they left the center of the holy city and were about to reach the entrance of the Abyss Demon Realm. At this moment, runes appeared on Lu Ming's body. His figure seemed to have disappeared, and there was no aura at all. Without a sound, Lu Ming appeared next to the person at the back. With a wave of his hand, the person did not even have time to react before he was stored into Lu Ming's mountain and river diagram. Chapter 1336. 1336 Chapter 1336 Emperor of Nine Suns. Hee, don't be happy too soon. Today is not only the day of your death, but also the day of Lu Ming's death. Horse-faced Emperor sneered. Lu Ming is also in your hands? Xia Zhuoyang said in a deep voice, a little worried. Not really, but it'll be soon. Of course. The horse-faced Emperor smiled and continued, I heard that Lu Ming is a man who values friendship and loyalty. If he knows that you will be executed today, will he come to the holy city to save you? As long as he comes, he'll be dead. You guys? Despicable. Despicable. You're using us. Don't even think about it. When Xia Zhuoyang, Bai Shijin, and the rest heard the horse-faced Emperor's words, how could they not know the plot of the Xie family and the Empyrean Heaven Divine Palace? They were clearly using them to lure Lu Ming here. They roared in anger. Scream, no matter how loudly you scream, it's useless. The horse-faced Emperor sneered. Seeing the anxious looks on Xia Zhuoyang and the others' faces, he felt extremely comfortable. At this moment, whoosh, whoosh. In the distance, a series of violent air-rending sounds came from the distance. Before the sound even faded, figures had already appeared around them. They were all from the Fiend clan. Their demonic chi soared to the sky as they glared at horse-faced Emperor and the others with cold eyes. The aura of these Masha clan members was very terrifying. They were more powerful than any Masha clan that Lu Ming had encountered before. The one in the lead had a particularly burly body. His demonic chi soared to the sky, and his vast demonic might was unfathomable. The Demon Emperor. The leader of the group was a Demon Emperor, the Emperor of the Demon clan. Horse-faced Emperor's expression also changed. Mo Sha clan, what are you trying to do? Horse-faced Emperor shouted. To kill you, of course. The Demon Emperor said coldly. You dare? Do you want to exterminate the entire clan? Horse-faced Emperor shouted. Annihilate the entire clan? If your Xie clan could do it, my Mo Sha clan would have been exterminated a long time ago. Would you still be so kind as to spare us? The Emperor mocked. Clang, clang. At this time, the sound of chains breaking came from under the volcanoes. Then, 5 powerful auras rushed out of 5 of the volcanoes. Then, 5 people rushed out of the volcanoes. It was Xia Zhuoyang and the others. Xia Zhuoyang's body was burning like a sun. The terrifying power of flames caused the temperature in the surrounding tens of thousands of miles to rise rapidly. The Emperor! Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The Supreme Being of 9 Suns had actually broken through to the position of the Emperor. Now, he should be called the Emperor of 9 Suns. Lu Ming was overjoyed. It seemed that they were not trapped at all. They had rushed out of the volcano on their own. You guys, how did you escape? Horse-faced Emperor was shocked. Of course it's because of my help. Now, you can stay here. The Emperor's voice was filled with killing intent. Let's go quickly and spread the news. Horse-faced Emperor suddenly shouted and turned to leave. Stay! The Emperor had been staring at the horse-faced Emperor for a long time. As soon as the horse-faced Emperor moved, the Devil Emperor moved as well. He clawed at the horse-faced Emperor with his sharp claws. Kill! The rest of the Mo Sha clansmen also charged towards the Xie clan. Boom! On the other side, Xia Zhuoyang and the others also made their moves. Xia Zhuoyang threw a punch, and his fist force was like a sun, blasting toward horse-faced Emperor. The horse-faced Emperor was shocked and tried his best to dodge. He did not dare to take it head-on. Xia Zhuoyang's punch made him tremble in fear. At the same time, Bai Shijin, Du Songjue, and the other 2 also launched an attack on the Xie family. Inscriptions appeared, and killing formations glowed. Bai Shijin and the other 3 attacked, and the void was filled with terrifying killing formations. A few people were killed in an instant. Lu Ming did not reveal his true face immediately. Anyway, Xia Zhuyang and the others had the upper hand now. He was not in a hurry. His figure swayed randomly in the void, and he dodged some attacks silently. 9 Yang Divine Fist. The flames on Xia Zhuyang's body became more and more turbulent. Vaguely, there were even the shadows of 9 suns that appeared around his body. He threw a punch that was like the explosion of the sun, blocking all the horse-faced emperor's escape routes. Horse-faced emperor had no choice but to fight back. Boom! The two of them exchanged a blow. The horse-faced emperor's body trembled and he retreated. He spat out a mouthful of blood. He was no match for Xia Zhuyang. As soon as he retreated, the emperor's attack arrived. He could only try his best to resist. As for the people that horse-faced emperor had brought, they were constantly being killed, and none of them could escape. Escape, I must escape. Horse-faced emperor roared in his heart. His Zhen Yuan seemed to be burning. His domain covered his whole body, blocking Xia Zhuyang's attack. Although he was hit and spat out a large mouthful of blood, and his body was almost burned, he successfully broke out of the encirclement with this attack and flew crazily toward the exit of Abyss Demon Realm. Not good, we can't let him escape. Xia Zhuyang hurriedly chased after him. The demon emperor of the Masha clan also gave chase. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. His figure flashed and he disappeared from the crowd. Not good, one of them ran away. Bai Shijin and Du Songjue's faces changed. The horse-faced emperor's speed was astonishing. He was running for his life, so it could be said that he was performing exceptionally well. In the blink of an eye, he had traveled 1,000 miles. However, before he could run 100,000 miles, inscriptions suddenly flashed in front of him. A large array appeared, and 8 huge chains appeared in the array, winding around the horse-faced emperor. Break! The horse-faced emperor's expression changed. He struck at the chain, but when his attack landed on the chain, it only caused a vibration. It did not break the chain. Why would I? Horse-faced emperor was shocked. Even he could not break it. This formation was clearly set up by an emperor. Why would another emperor stop him? The next moment, a figure appeared in front of horse-faced emperor. Zhaope, is that you? No, you're not Zhaope. The horse-faced emperor was stunned for a moment before he roared. He was very familiar with Zhaope. It was impossible for him to set up a formation that even he could not break. This person was not Zhaope at all. Buzz. Buzz. Behind them, Xia Zhuyang and the emperor of the Masha clan had already caught up. Get lost. The horse-faced emperor roared and wanted to rush over from the other side, but there was also a large array there. Chains crossed the sky and blocked the horse-faced emperor. At that moment, Xia Zhuyang and the emperor of the Masha clan had caught up and surrounded the horse-faced emperor. Damn it! Who are you? The horse-faced emperor bellowed and glared at Lu Ming with murderous intent. He could not wait to cut Lu Ming into 8 pieces. If Lu Ming had not stopped him, he would definitely have been able to escape. Xia Zhuyang and the emperor of the Masha clan looked at Lu Ming curiously. Wasn't Lu Ming with Horseface Emperor? He didn't expect to be able to stop Horse-Faced Emperor. More surprisingly, he was able to block it. He was obviously an emperor. If they were enemies, it would not be good. Didn't you just mention me? Lu Ming smiled. Then, the shape of his face started to change and he returned to his original appearance. You are Lu Ming? Horseface Emperor shouted in disbelief. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.